Chapter 844. Wang Sheng, an old Taoist Ling Su, went back to cultivate and continued the process of losing control of the spiritual energy during cultivation. Meyer and Sister Rosa had already made plans with Tantai Yao. They planned to have fun with those sisters and then reverse the world again. At the same time, in the Emperor's imperial study, the Emperor himself and the three great priests gathered again. They were still talking about the concert. This time, old eunuch Shun did not lie. Wang Sheng's advancement was a fact that happened in front of them. No one would deny it. The three great priests directly felt that the spiritual energy in the entire box seemed to have solidified. It was not an illusion. Is this music really so powerful? The Emperor still could not believe his ears. He and the Empress were immersed in the beautiful music and could not extricate themselves. They did not realize that Wang Sheng had advanced again in front of him. However, the three great priests were old people that he absolutely trusted. They would never lie to him. He could only say that he did not realize that his cultivation was low. This was normal. It was normal that his cultivation was lower than the three great priests. Otherwise, why would he need the protection of the three great priests? It must be related, but the three of us have not discovered the mystery yet. Stewardly bowed and replied. However, Ancestor Ling Su of the Lao Jun Temple must have discovered it and showed it later. Steward Zhou and old eunuch Shen nodded at the same time, which gave the Emperor a clear judgment. Is there any talent in the royal family who is proficient in music? Since it was confirmed, the Emperor immediately responded. One of Her Majesty's uncles is proficient in music. There's also a pure female music band in the residence. Steward Zhou immediately replied. In addition, there's also a band in charge of sacrificial music in the inner residence. Invite the uncle over. The Emperor quickly ordered. Old Zhou, go and ask when the next performance is. Arrange for the uncle to go to the box from last time and carefully experience it. This matter was related to Wang Sheng, so Steward Zhou did not dare to send someone to ask. He went directly to the Duke's residence and saw Wang Sheng as he wished. Just this? Wang Sheng didn't know whether to laugh or cry as he grumbled at Steward Zhou. Is it worth it for you to come here personally? Her Majesty likes it very much and wants to hear it again. Steward Zhou directly pulled up the Empress banner, but his attitude was very respectful. If your ladyship likes it, then it's naturally excellent. Wang Sheng smiled and suddenly asked Steward Zhou, I thought Steward Zhou discovered that listening to music is beneficial to cultivation. This sentence caused Steward Zhou's expression to change. Wang Sheng actually said it directly, causing Steward Zhou to not know how to respond. The Royal Theater was built a little too well. Wang Sheng said with a smile, in order to have an excellent audiovisual effect in every position, the arranged formation has a resonance with the perfect concert, thus causing the spiritual qi to fluctuate, which is very beneficial to cultivation. Hearing Wang Sheng unabashedly reveal the secret that the Emperor and the three great consecrators had tried so hard to dig out, Steward Zhou could not believe his ears. However, nothing comes without a price. Wang Sheng said to Steward Zhou with a smile. Steward Zhou's heart jumped. Could there be some kind of trouble? Seeing Steward Zhou's expression change, Wang Sheng then continued. The price is that in order to arrange this perfect formation, the Royal Theater spent 20 million gold coins more than originally planned. Steward Zhou heaved a sigh of relief after spending an extra batch of gold coins. As long as he knew that there were benefits, so what if he spent more gold coins? At this moment, Steward Zhou was already hoping that Wang Sheng would say more so that the royal family would know. Since it is the Royal Theater, the gold coins are also paid by the royal family. Of course, we have to let the royal family know about this. Wang Sheng slowly said to Steward Zhou, go back and tell His Majesty that similar performances can be held more often. There may be surprises in the music, but there may also be surprises in other aspects. Also, Wang Sheng dragged out his voice and smiled at Steward Zhou. The next time the three of you go to a concert, just listen to the music and don't think too much about those messy things. If you don't indulge in it, how will you discover the mystery within? His words brought out the fact that the three great consecrators did not properly appreciate the music and criticized them. It also indirectly pointed out the reason why the three of them did not discover the mystery. As for the performances, within a month, the Royal Symphony Orchestra will perform 4 times. When the time comes, there will be a notice and tickets will be sold. Wang Sheng only told Steward Zhou the time of the performances at the end. How much do you need to reserve? Let me know in advance, and I will leave the tickets for you. Steward Zhou acted as if he had obtained a treasure and quickly rushed back to the imperial city. After hearing what Wang Sheng said, the emperor, Steward Li, and old eunuch Shun looked at each other. Seems like we don't know how to behave. The emperor smiled bitterly after listening. Duke Changsheng has always been a person who is easy to talk to and cooperate with. As long as the cooperation is clearly stated and the benefits are divided, Duke Changsheng rarely turns against us. We still deal with Duke Changsheng the same way we deal with those feudal vassals. It's my fault. After saying it was their fault, the three great consecrators all knelt on the ground. The emperor admitted his fault in front of them. The three of them could not bear it. Other ways. The emperor pondered for a moment and then said to the three great consecrators, "Get up and study what other ways are they." Old Taoist Ling Su was not surprised that Wang Sheng revealed the secret of the spiritual energy oscillation to the emperor. He understood Wang Sheng's thoughts after pondering for a while. Didn't the emperor want to know the secret? Then support other ways. Could it be that Wang Sheng had to support them one by one? After this incident, it could be said that Wang Sheng's prestige among certain groups of people had reached the peak. Sometimes, his words were more effective than the emperor's. This was Wang Sheng's goal. However, old Taoist Ling Su did not care much about these things. He still accompanied Wang Sheng to cultivate every day and waited for Master Yu to finish practicing the 2 music scores. Then, he would listen to Wang Sheng sing it for him. Especially the song that Wang Sheng said was specially written for him and was the most suitable for him to sing. What was it? The old Taoist was very curious. The old Taoist was curious. Even Mei was curious. She especially told Wang Sheng to bring her along when the time came. For Mei, Wang Sheng was almost obedient and naturally agreed. Finally, after waiting for 3 days, Master Yu sent someone to inform them that the song was almost finished and they could come over to listen. As soon as the news arrived, Mei was very excited. She was even more eager than old Taoist Ling Su. She pulled Wang Sheng and the old Taoist straight to Master Yu. Master Yu was already on standby, waiting for Wang Sheng to arrive. Looking at this serious look, Wang Sheng smiled bitterly. He had to show off his amazing singing voice in front of everyone. Chapter 845. After a brief communication with Master Yu and the band finished their preparations and waited for Wang Sheng's signal. Old Taoist Ling Su, Mei and Sister Rosa sat opposite Wang Sheng and looked at Wang Sheng with a smile. Especially Mei and Sister Rosa. The 2 girls had never heard that Wang Sheng could sing. This was something new, and they had to be the first to see it. Wang Sheng stood in front of the band. There was an empty space around him, which was requested by Wang Sheng. You should have heard this song before, Old Taoist. Wang Sheng reminded Old Taoist Ling Su, then smiled at Mei and Sister Rosa, and turned around to give a signal to Master Yu. The drums started, followed by the flute. When the drums started, Wang Sheng got into a Taiji fist dance. Blades and swords don't belong to my sect. The vast sea and sky have my own style. No sword in my hand, no dust in my heart, that's my mind. Go with fate, come with the wind, that's my mind. A battle of words doesn't suit my style. The vast sea and sky have my own style. No sword in my hand, no dust in my heart, that's my mind. Go with fate, come with the wind, that's my mind. When Wang Sheng's voice sounded, he started to get into a fist stance. Along with the singing, a simplified version of Taiji fist was executed smoothly and smoothly. This was the theme song of Taiji Zhong, Sand Foam Back on Earth. Leave it to fate. Back then, when old Taoist Ling Su had encountered some obstacles in comprehending Taiji, Wang Sheng had sung this song in front of old Taoist Ling Su. Similarly, He had performed a boxing demonstration while singing. After that, old Taoist Ling Su's understanding of Taiji had greatly increased. The Grand Abbey Dean was there too. He was stunned when he saw the Taiji fist for the first time. However, Wang Sheng's singing at that time was different from this time. At that time, Wang Sheng sang without accompaniment, so there was no sound to speak of. Moreover, at that time, Wang Sheng had not completed the Qianyu transformation. His understanding of music was not deep enough. Similarly, he had not completed the Paleo transformation and did not know any vocal techniques. He could only sing a rough tune. The most important thing was for the old Taoist to understand the meaning of the lyrics. This time, with the perfect accompaniment of Master Yu and the Royal Symphony Orchestra, the effect was immediately different. With Wang Sheng's current intonation and rhythm, as well as Wang Sheng's superb attainments in the Buddhist incantation of 9 syllables, every word he sang had a stunning effect. Coupled with Wang Sheng's wonderful Tai Chi boxing, not to mention Meyer and Rosa, even old Taoist Ling Su was once again immersed in it. The song was not very long. After the performance ended very quickly, Wang Sheng stopped his boxing stance and sat at the side to drink wine, waiting for the people who were immersed in it to wake up. Even old Taoist Ling Su was like this, not to mention Master Yu's orchestra. They were all musicians, so they could understand the rhythm better than old Taoist Ling Su. After a few days of practice, they were able to perform the song instinctively. At first, they did not think much of the song. It was very ordinary, but in fact, when they were halfway through the performance, they were no longer relying on their active skills, but completely relying on their instinctive memory to finish the song. The whole orchestra, including Master Yu, was already immersed in that mysterious but extraordinary artistic conception. People who were involved in the arts were especially emotional, and they were even more immersed than old Taoist Ling Su. Meyer and Rosa had long been attracted by Wang Sheng's smooth boxing style, especially the beautiful melody. Moreover, these were all Wang Sheng's arms. The two beauties were the first to become starry and immersed in it. After a while, the orchestra members and Meyer and Rosa woke up one after another, but Wang Sheng signaled them to keep quiet. Master Yu and old Taoist Ling Su were still in that state of immersion. No one knew what they were thinking about, but Wang Sheng knew that they must have comprehended something, which was very beneficial to cultivation and the state of mind. The musicians in the orchestra were not fools. Something that could make people like Master Yu and old Taoist Ling Su immersed in it couldn't be simple. Everyone hurriedly memorized what they had seen and heard before, and then pondered what they had gained in that state just now. No one dared to disturb the two. After all, old Taoist Ling Su had heard it once. Although he had a different feeling this time, he still woke up very quickly. After waking up, he found that everyone was in a state of silence. After a little observation, he noticed that there was something wrong with Master Yu. At that moment, old Taoist did not say much. He took the wine and signaled to Wang Sheng from afar, and then drank it bit by bit. Master Yu was immersed in it twice as long as old Taoist Ling Su. When he woke up, an hour had passed. After letting out a long sigh, Master Yu regained his mobility. The first thing he did was to walk to Wang Sheng and apologize to Wang Sheng. I thought the song wasn't that great before, but after the lyrics, I realized it was different. I was one-sided. Master Yu bowed to Wang Sheng and apologized sincerely. How could Wang Sheng accept it? He quickly stood up and bowed back. Obviously, Master Yu's eyes were brighter than before. Wang Sheng could not help but ask curiously, "Master, do you also believe in Taoism?" "Yes." Master Yu did not hide it. He answered like a teacher, "But after listening to your song, I realized the great wisdom and principles in it. Maybe I will read more Taoist classics in the future." Wang Sheng smiled bitterly at once. Master Yu's interest in Taoism was aroused by Leave It to Fate. But after listening to the next song, would he jump up to kill me? Master Yu did not know the lyrics of the next song. Because of Leave It to Fate, Master Yu swept away his previous disdain and looked forward to the second song. "Not now. Wait until I'm drunk." Wang Sheng shook his head and refused Master Yu's request to sing the second song immediately. Then, he gulped down the wine. That's right. The second song was Tao, which was sung by Yin Qixia in a Chinese ghost story on Earth. Because the lyrics were somewhat deviant, the singer, Huang Zhan, had never been able to find that kind of feeling. Later, after drinking a bottle of XO, he finally got the feeling. Only when he was drunk was he able to sing the free and unrestrained joy in it. Wang Sheng made some changes to the lyrics. He did not use any words that should not exist in this world. He replaced them with some things in this world and changed them from Cantonese to Mandarin. However, the flavor was still there and the deviant flavor was not lacking. If it were an Orthodox Taoist, he would definitely fly into a rage after hearing this song. Even if he had a good temper, he would still frown. However, old Taoist Ling Su was different. He dared to eat and drink in the depository of sutras. This song was simply tailor-made for old Taoist Ling Su. Chapter 846. The more Wang Sheng said so, the more old Taoist Ling Su looked forward to it. But since he was already sitting here, the old Taoist did not urge him to do anything. Wang Sheng said he wanted a drink, and the old Taoist drank with him. It seemed to be the first time Mayer and Sister Rosa saw Wang Sheng so versatile. Both of them were like little girls looking at their idol, with stars in their eyes and faces full of worship. Master Yu did not rush them either. He was also looking forward to Wang Sheng's second piece. He simply sat by the band's side and waited patiently. Wang Sheng drank more and more. He used to drink with a bowl, but when he got excited, he directly took out a big wine jar. The pure smell of Wuliangya spread out. Even Master Yu and the others wrinkled their noses and kept sniffing. They could not believe that the wine could have such a smell. The wine jar was lifted up high by Wang Sheng with one hand. Just like how Dongfang Booby drank in the movies, he poured all down. Half of the wine jar was wasted, but the more than half jar of Wuliangya had already made Wang Sheng drunk. Bang! Clang! Wang Sheng tossed the wine jar away. The wine jar fell to the ground and broke into pieces. The whole venue was filled with the refreshing smell of wine. Wang Sheng stood up shakily and walked to the front slowly. This time, Wang Sheng did not use any of the 9 words Buddhist incantation. He completely relied on his own body to drink. He did not expect that after strengthening his body with spiritual qi several times, his capacity for wine had also increased by many times. From the big bowl to the wine jar, he drank almost 20 liters of wine to reach this state. Master Yu and the others had already communicated with Wang Sheng before. They knew that this time, they would wait for Wang Sheng to speak first before they would play the accompaniment. They were all ready and waiting for Wang Sheng to start. Wang Sheng staggered to the center of the room. At some point in time, a small bottle of fine wine had appeared in his hand. At this moment, Wang Sheng, who was drunk, knew what was going to happen. He signaled to Master Yu. When all the musicians were ready, Wang Sheng opened his mouth. Yaha, Dao. The moment Wang Sheng's drunken yet carefree voice rang out, Master Yu's baton swung down fiercely. Intense and unique music started playing, followed by Wang Sheng repeating the word Dao over and over again. Das, das, das. While he was drunk, Wang Sheng listened to the familiar rhythm and sang the song Dao in a carefree manner. The Dao can be Dao, but it is not the Dao. The heavenly Dao and the earth Dao. Human Dao, sword Dao. Black Dao, white Dao, ecliptic Dao, equatorial Dao. Ababa nonsense. Flower ceremony and tea ceremony. Ha. Yin Dao and Yang Dao. Ha. You Dao, I Dao, jackals Dao Dao. I seek my own Dao. I seek my own Dao. Dao can be Dao, but not Dao. Heavenly Dao, Dao. Human Dao, sword Dao. Black Dao, white Dao, ecliptic Dao, equatorial Dao. Ababa nonsense. I seek my own Dao. 1 Dao, 2 Dao. 3 Dao for Dao. East Dao, South Dao, West Dao, North Dao. Left Dao, right Dao, front Dao, back Dao. All Dao, all Dao, all Dao, all Dao. I seek my own Dao. I seek my own Dao. Wang Sheng sang while drunk. His voice was free and easy, and at the same time, it was mixed with the effects of a 9-syllables Buddhist incantation. The unique rhythm gave the song a strong charm, but when he sang the lyrics, there was a sense of rebellion. When he first heard it, he felt that it was too much, wasn't it? But when he heard Wang Sheng sing, "I seek my own Tao," with a drunken voice, old Taoist Ling Su's heart seemed to suddenly float to the sky. He felt an indescribable itch in his heart, and wished he could slap his thigh and have another big drink with Wang Sheng on the spot. This sentence was sung to the heart of old Taoist Ling Su, especially the "I ba 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 ba" nonsense. At the beginning, it sang the mentality of old Taoist Ling Su when he couldn't bear to see what the Grand Abbey Dean and the others had done all those years. No wonder Wang Sheng said that this song was tailor-made for old Taoist Ling Su. Just these two lines alone sang the mentality of old Taoist Ling Su's cultivation to his heart's content. There is nothing more wonderful than having such a soulmate on the road of cultivation. My Tao is not lonely. Ha ha! Old Taoist Ling Su was not afraid of disturbing Wang Sheng's singing, and laughed out loud. When Wang Sheng sang "ba ba ba ba," the old Taoist immediately sang "nonsense" with Wang Sheng. It was indescribably delightful. "I seek my own Tao," and "each seeks his own Tao." From the beginning, these two lines were the accompaniment to the song and went along with the wine. Wang Sheng sang wantonly, while old Taoist Ling Su listened to it happily until Wang Sheng finished singing. When Wang Sheng finished singing, he only felt refreshed and indescribably happy. After listening, old Taoist Ling Su felt even more like a bosom friend. He wished he could drink another 300 cups of wine with Wang Sheng. Both of them laughed out loud, not caring about the feelings of the people around them. They just laughed like crazy. Amidst the crazy laughter, Wang Sheng had already used the 9 symbolic words to dispel the drunkenness in his body. His eyes had also regained clarity. He picked up the wine bottle in his hand, signaled to old Taoist Ling Su, and tilted his head back to gulp it down. Obviously, Master Yu and the others' understanding of this song was not as good as the previous one. This song was indeed a little unrestrained and did not sound orthodox enough. The previous song, "Follow Fate," had placed Master Yu and the group of musicians in a state of tranquility and inaction without desire. However, this song did not have that effect. Master Yu even frowned. However, seeing that old Taoist Ling Su was listening to it so happily, Master Yu could not say anything. Even Ancestor Ling Su, who was the most senior in the Temple of Laozi, had such an attitude. This could only mean that his understanding of Tao was not deep enough, and he was still unable to comprehend the wisdom contained in the song. It should not be Wang Sheng's problem, but his own. However, this style of music had a bright rhythm and sounded very dynamic. It would probably attract a lot of people's attention. If one ignored the lyrics, there should be some people who would be attracted by this kind of music with a strong sense of rhythm. Perhaps one could try something like this in the future. As a great grandmaster, one could not become a great grandmaster only by appreciating and indulging in one or a few kinds of so-called elegant music. One had to try all kinds of music styles to be qualified to be called a great grandmaster. It would not be too late to call it a great grandmaster when one could easily master all kinds of music styles. Old Taoist, are you satisfied with this song? Wang Sheng walked slowly to old Taoist Ling Su and asked after clinking glasses with the old Taoist again. Yes. The old Taoist was not pretentious. He nodded and said, "No wonder it was tailor-made for me, the old Taoist. If it were someone else, he wouldn't dare to sing it casually. That means it's me, the old Taoist. Ha 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 ha." After laughing, the old Taoist urged Wang Sheng, "Hurry up and find time to write it down for me. I want to go back to the Temple of Laozi to sing it after I master it." Ha ha ha! Nonsense! After singing one line, the old Taoist Ling Su said, "I have some enlightenment. I'll go into seclusion for a few days. Be careful. Ask the Qing generation to be more vigilant." Chapter 847. The old Taoist had not had such an epiphany for a long time. Wang Sheng was pleasantly surprised at the mention of it. However, Wang Sheng was not in a hurry to ask the old Taoist what he was thinking about. He quickly arranged for his seclusion so that the inspiration would not run away. As for Wang Sheng's safety, to be honest, he did not have to worry about it in the capital for the time being. Even if Uncle Lee from Carefree City chased after him, the few masters of the Qing generation would be able to hold him off for a while. It would be enough for Wang Sheng to set up a death trap. After hurriedly arranging for old Taoist Ling Su, Wang Sheng returned to Master Yu's side. Master Yu was satisfied with one of the two songs this time, and could not comment on the other. However, Master Yu was already very happy that Wang Sheng had produced two new songs. Moreover, Master Yu and the musicians had their own insights, so Wang Sheng did not disturb them anymore. He only reminded them not to forget about the performance in the next 2 days. Then, he returned to the Duke's mansion with Mayer and Rosa. Old Taoist Ling Su went into seclusion. Wang Sheng continued to practice the mantra of 9 symbolic words and the use of multiple words at the same time. 2 days later, the Royal Symphony Orchestra's second official performance began. The tickets for this performance were sold 3 days in advance, and the news was released 4 days in advance. As a result, on the day the news was released, there were already servants from the nobles' mansions in the capital lining up in advance. The queue was more than 300 meters long. This number was close to the number of seats in the Royal Theatre. Many people received the news a little late. They arrived about an hour late, but when they saw the number of people, they knew that they had no chance. They did not know what kind of punishment the servants in charge of lining up would receive if they did not get tickets. However, this queue was enough to make the people in the capital talk about it for a few days. If Wang Sheng saw this scene, he would definitely shake his head and sigh. There were Apple fans on Earth, and there were similar people in this world. The cheapest ticket for the second performance, which was 10 gold coins per ticket, was sold out in less than half an hour. Apart from the 100 tickets that Steward Zhou had left behind for the imperial family, all the other tickets were sold out. The tickets that Wang Sheng left for the royal family were not free either. They were directly deducted from the profits that Qian Xingyuan and Runzi Workshop gave to the emperor. Wang Sheng didn't go, but according to the manager of the theater, 2 out of the 3 imperial consecrators went. It was said that he was extremely attentive when listening to music. It was probably because of what Wang Sheng had said to Steward Zhou. Basically, at this point, some of the nobles in the imperial court had begun to slightly change their views. At the very least, they no longer treated the musicians as ordinary servants. They had a little more respect for the musicians who were truly capable. Of course, it was just a little bit. There were only 2 concerts, and it was not enough to radiate its influence to the whole country. It was not easy to form such a concept in the circle of high officials and nobles in the capital. There was still a long way to go. However, Master Yu and the others were already very satisfied with this. They had never thought that there would be a day when the high officials and nobles would smile and nod at them when they saw them, instead of looking at them as if they were at their beck and call. For this, Master Yu specially looked for Wang Sheng to express his gratitude again. "It's all because of you." Wang Sheng didn't take all the credit for himself. He replied to Master Yu with a smile, "Master, it will get better in the future. You must believe in this." "Of course I believe in it." Master Yu laughed and told Wang Sheng a piece of good news. "Duke, you said that the theater has the effect of spiritual qi oscillation. These few days, old Lu and the others have been rushing and have completed the theater in the Duke's mansion. Duke, do you want to go and have a try?" Of course. To Wang Sheng, this was really a surprise. He thought that it would take at least a month. He didn't expect it to be so fast. He guessed that Master Yu had been working hard these few days. There were some things that Wang Sheng didn't want to say. The small theater wasn't big, and the stage couldn't fit all the members of the orchestra. There were only 2 rows of seats for the audience, and there were a total of 10 people. Master Yu seemed to have requested this on purpose. The explanation he gave to Wang Sheng was that he listened to Wang Sheng and implemented the chief position system. Other than the chief position, there were 3 seats for the second and third seats. Those who could perform in the small theater in the Duke's mansion had to be at least 3 seats. Everyone in the orchestra knew that Wang Sheng had sharp ears. After receiving guidance from both Wang Sheng and Master Yu, they could benefit a lot. Everyone practiced and improved like crazy. Of course, up until now, there were less than 50 members of the orchestra who could perform for Wang Sheng in the small theater. To be able to perform in the small theater was an honor that was second only to being the chief of the orchestra. Wang Sheng, Mayer, Sister Rosa, and a few old Taoist members of the Qing generation from Taoism sat in the auditorium of the small theater, waiting for the performance to start. This wasn't a rehearsal, but a real, serious performance. The theater wasn't big, and there weren't many formations used. However, Master Yu had adjusted it to the limit. This performance was to verify the effect of the spiritual qi oscillation that old Taoist Ling Su had mentioned. Master Yu and the others were ready. Wang Sheng led the crowd to stand up and applaud. Then, they sat down quietly and prepared to listen. With Master Yu's direction, the concert started again. Wang Sheng didn't feel the effect of the spiritual qi oscillation for the time being. However, Wang Sheng could follow Master Yu's rhythm and continue to practice the technique of using the three-word formula at the same time. On the other hand, the old Taoist members of the Qing generation listened attentively. They could also feel the effect of the spiritual qi oscillation. After all, it was a small theater, not a big one that could hold 1,000 people. The space was narrow, so the spiritual qi could be felt more clearly. Other than Wang Sheng, who was following Master Yu's rhythm, only Mayer and Sister Rosa had low cultivation, so they couldn't feel it. Then came a surprise. Wang Sheng had been practicing the three-word formula at the same time for the past few days. When he was cultivating with the rhythm of the music, there was a surge of spiritual qi. The familiar feeling of the spiritual qi of heaven and earth once again hit him. In the process of enjoying the music, Wang Sheng advanced again. The few old Taoist members of the Qing generation were dumbfounded. They couldn't even feel the spiritual qi oscillation anymore. Wang Sheng had actually leveled up while he was enjoying the music. No matter how one looked at it, this seemed like a fantasy story. And yet, this story was happening right before their eyes. Master Yu was completely focused during the performance. The band members were also very serious. No one realized that Wang Sheng was advancing right under their noses. A huge amount of spiritual qi rushed into Wang Sheng's body, acupuncture points, and the soul space. His acupuncture points expanded from the size of a peach pit to the size of a ping-pong ball. Everything felt the same as when he advanced. However, there was a small difference. In the soul space, there was a drop of clear liquid in the pool that had been quiet for a long time as the spiritual qi of heaven and earth tempered his body. Chapter 848. In the past, in the soul space, in the big pool, there was white smoke at first, then gray smoke, and finally black smoke. It became more and more viscous. Although there was a lot of spiritual energy, it was still gaseous. Wang Sheng could clearly sense that the drop of clear liquid was spiritual energy that had turned into liquid form. Wang Sheng felt that this should be called spiritual liquid. This was the first time that spiritual liquid appeared in the soul space. It was completely different from spiritual energy. Wang Sheng could even feel the surging spiritual energy contained in it. This drop of spiritual liquid might be equivalent to the whole pool of white spiritual energy. Unfortunately, Wang Sheng's cultivation was low. The venomous snake soul was lying motionless, and it did not absorb the spiritual energy in the pool. Wang Sheng did not know what the effect would be. However, according to the knowledge of physics, it was normal for liquids to be denser than gases. Therefore, Wang Sheng was sure that the spiritual liquid must be stronger than spiritual energy. The performance was coming to an end. Wang Sheng came out of the state of refining his body with spiritual energy. He was surprised to find that he could remember all the details of the band's performance. Perhaps it was because his cultivation rhythm was mixed with the music rhythm. As long as he could remember the rhythm of cultivation, he would definitely remember the details of the music. When the last note fell, Wang Sheng stood up again and took the lead to applaud. They were indeed excellent musicians. The worst one was at least a chair 3, which was higher than the average level of all the performers in the big theater. If Wang Sheng were to judge, the average level could basically reach the level of a master. After all, these people had been carefully guided by Master Yu for such a long time. Master Yu and the band members all stood in the same place. waiting for Wang Sheng to comment. Wang Sheng did not comment directly. Instead, he turned to the old Taoist of the Qing generation and asked, "How is it? There is indeed the phenomenon of spiritual energy oscillation." The old Taoist of the Qing generation nodded at the same time. They were sure that this small theater had the same effect as the big theater. "What about May and Rosa?" Wang Sheng asked the two girls. The two girls shook their heads. Whether it was in terms of cultivation or music, they couldn't say anything. Although Rosa had learned some things like zither, chess, calligraphy, and painting when she was young, she was still far behind Master Yu and the others who were professionals. "Then let's do it one by one." Wang Sheng did not stand on ceremony. The reason why Master Yu was willing to bring his band to the small theater was not only for Wang Sheng to enjoy, but also for his professional comments. Let's start from the left. Wang Sheng pointed at the musicians in the band and began to comment. During the performance, which rhythm was slightly lacking, which timbre was slightly obscure, which part of the performance was not infused with the correct emotion, which melody did not match well with the conductor, and so on, the musician who was playing the zither listened with an ashen face. He thought that he was the chief of the zither in the orchestra, and he was holding the best zither, carefully tuned by Master Yu. The performance process just now was perfect. However, Wang Sheng actually pointed out so many shortcomings in one go, which was incredible. If he could distinguish it, it would be fine. It would mean that Wang Sheng had misheard, but when Wang Sheng pointed out one by one, he thought about it again. It was true that there were several places that were really as Wang Sheng said, or slightly flawed, not bad at all. It turned out that the perfection he thought was still far from it, which was why the chief of the zither was ashen. He knew very well that Wang Sheng suggested that Master Yu invite a group of music grandmasters to come out. If a group of grandmasters really came and he did not make any progress, then he was afraid that he would not be able to keep his position as the chief. Maybe he would be demoted to the second or third place. He had just tasted the taste of being the chief. How could he be willing to be demoted? After saying one, Wang Sheng immediately began the second. He was not targeting anyone, but he wanted to improve the overall level of everyone, and then improve the overall effect. Of course, the process of leveling up was beneficial to everyone. Everyone listened attentively and memorized it, lest they made the same mistake again. He commented on everyone one by one, and all of them had a sincere attitude. For Wang Sheng, this Chongqing Duke, they admired him from the bottom of their hearts. In the collective performance of so many people, he could still hear the small flaws of each person and remember them so clearly. This was not an ordinary ability. The band members were sent away by Master Yu, and only Master Yu and Wang Sheng were left in the small theater. At this point, Master Yu said to Wang Sheng, "They have all commented. What about me, the conductor? What's the problem with the conductor?" Before, Wang Sheng did not comment on Master Yu's conductor. In his opinion, Master Yu's conductor was already perfect. For the deep understanding of music, Master Yu was more proficient than Wang Sheng. Perfect. Wang Sheng gave the simplest evaluation with 2 words. At the same time, he gave a thumbs up. "Master, if not for your conductor and the integration of your life experience and cultivation experience into the performance, how could I cultivate with the rhythm? There's such a thing?" When Master Yu was performing, he was completely focused. He did not expect such a thing, so he quickly asked what was going on. "This is the 3rd time." Wang Sheng smiled at Master Yu and said, "You know, my cultivation has dropped a lot recently. However, after listening to your concert 3 times and cultivating with your rhythm, I have already advanced 3 times. Rhythm? Spirit chi? Cultivation?" Master Yu was deep in thought. Could there be a connection between them? Could it be that you used all your energy when you were conducting, Master? Old Taoist Qing Shan saw that Wang Sheng and Master Yu were deep in thought. So he asked, "I used my spirit chi unknowingly, so it guided the rhythm of Elder's cultivation." That's possible. Master Yu thought about the state of his performance. He was not completely sure, but he did not deny it either. "I have a question." After being reminded by old Taoist Qing Shan, Wang Sheng also thought of a connection. The reason why the spirit chi oscillation is weaker is because the band did not integrate their spirit chi when they were performing. If everyone used their spirit chi when they were performing, what would the result be? Everyone's eyes lit up. Music could guide the rhythm of cultivation, but where did the spirit chi oscillation come from? The only one who used spirit chi was Master Yu. If all the members of the band used spirit chi, it was possible to form a large spirit chi oscillation. I'll go back and let them try. Master Yu suddenly became interested and turned to leave. Master, Wang Sheng stopped Master Yu. If it really works, I'm afraid no one will look down on musicians in the future. Chapter 849. Master Yu's body shook violently, and he froze on the spot. All of a sudden, he understood what Wang Sheng meant. If one could really use spiritual chi in the performance and smoothly control the rhythm and blend the effect, and then cause a large-scale spiritual chi oscillation in the theater, then following Wang Sheng's instruction to cultivate under the guidance of the music rhythm would become a new way of cultivation. By then, musicians would become a scarce resource, just like alchemists and spellcasters, who would be fought over. As long as one was not an idiot, no one would dare to look down on musicians anymore. No one would think that musicians were lowly people who could be summoned at any time, and no one would treat them as craftsmen, instruct them to serve respectfully, and ask them for help during their own cultivation. Of course, not only musicians, but also architects who could build a perfect spiritual chi oscillation field, and spellcasters who could set up perfect sound effects would have a much higher status. Sound was a pure oscillation, and a conductor who could coordinate multiple instruments and drive the spiritual chi oscillation would be even rarer. As far as Wang Sheng knew, the only qualified conductor now was probably Master Yu. The few young people who were learning from Master Yu could at most play the rhythm, but they were still far from being the chief conductor. If one's cultivation was not enough, he would not be able to guide all the musicians and instruments, and the effect of spiritual chi oscillation would be much weaker, not to mention guiding the circulation of spiritual chi. Master Yu figured out the key to this and became more and more excited. Other than the pursuit of art, he had nothing else on his mind. After working together with Wang Sheng, he suddenly had so many paths ahead of him. It made Master Yu wish he could walk down every single one of them. Watching Master Yu leave excitedly, one could imagine that he would definitely urge those musicians to work hard. Wang Sheng, Meyer, and Rosa returned to the backyard. The two girls discussed something and soon left the Duke's mansion. They were busy with many things, and Wang Sheng did not care, as long as there was no problem with their safety. Wang Sheng himself continued to study the use of the multi-word formula. After leveling up once again, Wang Sheng was very familiar with the usage of the three-word formula. Without further ado, he immediately began to study the four-word formula. In this way, the control of the spiritual energy that he had just stabilized with great difficulty suddenly began to go wild again. After 2 days, Meyer had made up her mind and told Rosa to start preparing. A few days later, Meyer and Wang Sheng began to discuss the opening of the new business for the ladies in the Wang mansion. Duke, our new business should have a name, right? The workshop next to Runzi Workshop had been renovated in the past 6 months. Inside, a variety of gyms, dormitories, and swimming pools occupied 1/3 of the space. The other 1/3 operated brand new clothing and lingerie, and the remaining 1/3 was a runway exhibition hall built according to Wang Sheng's suggestion. The entrance was the same as Runzi Workshop, but only Runzi Workshop Gold Card users and above could enter the new workshop through the beauty salon of Runzi Workshop. They could choose to buy fashionable lingerie, fitness dancing, and watch the fashion shows of supermodels from time to time. Of course, since it was a new high-end business launched by Wang Sheng, apart from a series of adjectives such as high-end, cutting-edge, and trendy, the biggest characteristic was that it was expensive. Usually, people who did not have 100,000 gold coins in their pocket should not come here to spend money. This was not a place for ordinary people, and the target customers were not them. Since the new business was going to open, it needed a name. Meyer and Sister Rosa came to discuss this with Wang Sheng. Wang Sheng had a headache. Coming up with a name was the most troublesome thing for web novelists on Earth, And it was the same for Wang Sheng here. Looking at the expectant faces of the two ladies, Wang Sheng's heart skipped a beat. How about this? The fitness training brand will be called Rosa. Rosa Body Shaping, Rosa Bearing, and Rosa Etiquette. Our model sisters all call her Rose Supermodel. Wang Sheng directly used Sister Rose's name. The clothing brand is called Mei. The sportswear will be called the Mei Ing series. The outerwear will be the Mei Gu series. The lingerie will be the Mei Yin series. And the shoes will be the Mei Yin series. The names of the two businesses included Sister Rosa and Meyer, and the two ladies instantly beamed with joy. It was for no other reason than the fact that Wang Sheng had placed them in his heart. What else? What about the Hall of Walking Elegance? Meyer suddenly had an idea and asked, "Don't tell me it's going to be called the Hall of Seven Elegance?" The name contained the word seven, and it was obvious that Meyer had included Achi, who was far away in Carefree City. Wang Sheng shook his head slightly. He and Aki could be said to be innocent. Aki did not fully accept Wang Sheng, and Wang Sheng did not accept Aki either. Besides, with Aki's personality as an assassin, she might not like such a name. The name of the show hall will be Colorful Beauty. Song Yan's face appeared in Wang Sheng's mind. He had not seen Song Yan for a long time, and he did not know how she was doing and how her cultivation was. The word yin was a memento. Hearing the name Colorful Beauty, Meyer could not help but pout. Song Yin and Wang Sheng had worked together for a period of time. The word yin must be referring to Song Yin. The Duke still has that woman in his heart. However, Meyer would not object. In any case, Meyer and Sister Rosa were ranked ahead of Song Yin. They were both big brands, while Song Yan's word yin was just the name of a hall. They cannot be compared. Moreover, with Song Yan's identity as the princess of Song Kingdom, it was unlikely that she would have any interaction with Wang Sheng. Since it was unlikely that they would be together, why should she be jealous? Meyer was not that foolish to provoke Wang Sheng's displeasure. Then, do we have to separate them? Meyer seemed to feel that separating the three was not enough. She asked again, "Isn't there a unified name? How about we call it Sheng?" The word Sheng naturally referred to Wang Sheng's victory, but could also refer to Duke Chongqing's victory. It's not good to have such a masculine name for a woman's brand. Wang Sheng shook his head. The eyes of the girl in his dream flashed across his mind. He pondered for a while and said, "How about Dream?" Dream? Meyer and Rosa pondered over the name. They suddenly felt that this word was extremely attractive to women. Who didn't have dreams? Everyone wanted to have a beautiful dream. It was called Dream. It couldn't be any more wonderful. All right, let's call it Dream. I'll separate Runzi Workshop's most high-end cosmetics into Dream Workshop. Let's call it Rosa Cosmetics. Meyer quickly agreed. This new workshop will be called Dream Workshop. Every woman who enters Dream Workshop will be able to fulfill their dreams. Chapter 850. The Dream Workshop opened in a low-key manner. The reason why it was so low-key was because Dream Workshop didn't have any grand opening ceremony at all. It opened very quietly, and almost no one in Jing City knew about it. But in fact, the opening of Dream Workshop was not low-key at all. All customers with gold cards and above received the notice 3 days in advance. However, customers of this level rarely announced anything. They knew that it was a special benefit for them, so they wouldn't say anything before seeing what was inside. On the opening day, almost all the customers with gold cards and above rushed to Moisturizing Workshop. Even the Imperial Palace sent over 20 concubines into the beauty salon. Through a street connected to the real Moisturizing Workshop, the ladies entered the Dream Workshop in high spirits. During the first rehearsal at the Royal Theater, the clothes of the beauties collected by Wang Sheng's residents dazzled the eyes of many of the Imperial Guards. Even now, there were still many people who could not forget those peerless beauties from that night. These socialites who had the right to enter the Dream House had long been looking forward to Mei-er's beautiful clothing business. According to the notice they had received, the Dream House had the beautiful clothes that the women had worn that night. Many people had been looking forward to it, waiting for the opening day to carefully choose the clothes. More than 2,000 people came into the dream workshop at once, but not all of them were ladies. Every gold card customer could bring a companion in. Some of them brought their maids, while others brought their bosom friends. Anyway, no one came alone on the opening day. When everyone excitedly entered the dream workshop that they had been looking forward to for a long time, a group of beautiful women, who made almost all of them feel ashamed of their inferiority, warmly invited them to enjoy a beautiful fashion show in the colorful boutique. What was a fashion show? The ladies who came in were all confused. But since it was arranged by the host, there must be a special purpose. Anyway, there was no man here, so they went to have a look first, in case they didn't make a fool of themselves later. The huge multicolored pavilion had more seats than the Royal Theater. However, although there were many seats, the venue was not as splendid and spacious as the Royal Theater. There were also various sound and light arrays inside, as well as an all-female band. Of course, this band obviously could not be compared to the Royal Symphony Orchestra. It was just a band formed by the girls who liked music and were good at playing musical instruments. Wang Sheng gave them a batch of fast-paced songs to be used as background music when the models walked the runway. Although the level of these women might still be a distance away from the musicians of the Royal Symphony Orchestra, the conductor was Master Yu. Everyone had been carefully taught by Master Yu. Even the commander had been taught by him. It couldn't achieve the effect of spiritual energy oscillation in the theater, but it was enough to be used as background music. The female customers entered the colorful house with all kinds of thoughts. Although the distance and angle of the seats were different, they didn't know what they wanted to see since it was their first time here. They didn't know what a fashion show was, so they endured it and decided to watch first. After all the female guests were seated, there were still some empty seats left in the colorful restaurant. This was a venue that could hold 2,500 people and was built for fashion shows. Suddenly, the entire stadium went dark. The female guests exclaimed, not knowing what had happened. While they were surprised, a ray of light shone on the stage. A beautiful woman was standing there, smiling at everyone. The woman who appeared was Rosa. Dream House was the property that Wang Sheng had promised to give to the daughters of the Wang family. It was led by Rosa, so it was Rosa who showed up. In this regard, Mayor didn't care at all. She only needed to know that Wang Sheng always put her first in his heart. So at this moment, Mayor was also one of the audience. She was accompanying a distinguished guest in the only private room with the best position, waiting for the show to start. The distinguished guest was, of course, the Empress. The Empress owned half of the shares of Runzi Workshop. When Dream House opened, Wang Sheng still gave the Empress part of the shares. But this time it wasn't half, but 1/3. The Empress owned 1/3, Mayor owned 1/3, and Sister Rosa owned 1/3. Although the royal family was a shareholder, it wasn't a working stock, but a real investment of gold coins. Today was also the opening of their own business. The Empress had secretly come here, but she didn't come with the imperial concubines. Esteemed guests, Sister Rosa's voice was clearly transmitted to everyone's ears through the spell formation. Everyone heard her clearly. Today is the opening day of the Dream Workshop. We sincerely welcome all of our esteemed guests. Many of the distinguished guests had attended the concert twice. At this moment, they also applauded. Even those who hadn't attended before also applauded. Dream House is a brand that only targets high-end women. The founder of the brand is His Excellency Duke Changsheng. After a pause, Sister Rosa continued, I believe you all know that Duke Changsheng has never let you down. It was true. At least the high-end customers of Runzi Workshop were very satisfied. Now, Wang Sheng made a business of Dream House for everyone, which made everyone curious to death. There are actually only two core businesses of Dream House. One is beauty, and the other is sex appeal. As soon as Sister Rosa said the word sex appeal, the guests burst into an uproar. In this world, there had never been a woman who said the word sex appeal so straightforwardly. They are all women. There are no men here. Men who trespass will die. This is an imperial edict, so you can rest assured. Sister Rosa knew the conflicting thoughts of these guests. She didn't care about the uproar and continued, Everything that Dream House does is for the people closest to us. Don't worry. They were all female generals who fought their way up in the imperial city or the imperial harem. It was common for them to fight for favor and jealousy. Who didn't know who? Whoever was sexy would take advantage. This was common sense. At first, the uproar was a little sudden. After confirming that they were all women, everyone was no longer worried. They just became more and more curious. Curious about this beautiful and sexy business. What was it? The first May series boutique fashion show of Dream House's colorful pavilion begins now. Sister Rosa's voice finally scratched the most itchy place in the hearts of the female guests. They immediately sat up straight and prepared to enjoy it. The lights went dark again. In less than 3 seconds, the whole place was lit up again. Chapter 851. Along with the simple and clean music, the long T-shaped stage lit up with colorful rays of light. At the same time, a fresh and clean smell blew out, causing the knowledgeable people in the audience to feel a little surprised. That fragrance was clearly the fragrance of the highest grade perfume series of Moisturizing Workshop. Looking at the fragrance that permeated the entire venue, there were probably dozens of bottles of it. That was at least 10,000 gold coins for a bottle. Was it only used to set off the atmosphere of this unknown fashion show? The brightest place was on the T-shaped stage. Although there was light in the audience seats, it was only enough for them to clearly see their surroundings. In the corner of the T-shaped stage, along with the music, a woman wearing clothes that no one had ever seen before walked out. Like a young lady from a noble family, she gracefully walked along the horizontal stage to the middle, then turned around and began to walk towards the vertical stage. The clothes she wore were modified by Wang Sheng. It was a modern design of Han clothing. Compared to the clothes worn by the current aristocratic ladies, it was slightly more sophisticated. It wasn't too long, but it was just enough to set off the woman's entire figure, especially the wide belt around her waist. It gave off a sense of sophistication and also showed off the woman's slim waist. The woman was very beautiful. Her makeup was also very exquisite. Her hairstyle was very simple, unlike the majority of aristocratic ladies who combed their hair into a complicated bun. Her hair was simply let down and tied with a red string at the back. It was simple, but it had a kind of refined taste, making people unable to look away. Only now did the audience understand why the stage was designed this way. It turned out that when walking from the other side to the other side, the audience on both sides could clearly see her from all angles. It was really a good thing. Strange, why was this woman so beautiful and attractive when walking? Soon, some people discovered some clues. The woman's feet were wearing a pair of shoes that stood out from the others. What was interesting was that the heels of the shoes were about 1.5 inches higher than ordinary shoes. They were very compatible with the clothes. When she walked, she looked even more graceful and charming, with an indescribable meaning. Beautiful? Beautiful. This woman was originally one in 10,000 beauties. Moreover, she had also cultivated the eternal Spring Heart Sutra of the Victorious Return Palace. It would be strange if she wasn't beautiful. But sexy? Could it be that she only showed off the lines of her waist? Many of the audience had heard about the legends of the royal guards, but why did they feel that something was wrong? This was Wang Sheng's idea. Wouldn't a group of women who felt like they had lost their virginity just by wearing short sleeves be shocked to see a bikini? It was better to let them relax bit by bit and slowly accept it. One model walked in from the beginning, followed by the second. The second model was still dressed conservatively. However, there were already quite a number of viewers who liked these two sets of clothes that looked both smart and feminine, and they planned to buy one for themselves. There were even a few sets of clothes that could be worn on a daily basis. These sets of home clothes all had one thing in common, and that was that they outlined the woman's figure very beautifully. Even though she was wrapped up tightly, she still gave people a feeling that she had a graceful figure. The audience was curious. Was this what it meant to be sexy? It seemed like the taste was still lacking. There were about 6 sets of home clothes. Then, the sound of the music changed and became somewhat lazy and casual. The next model who came out was already wearing an evening gown. Sister Rosa didn't show up either. She just told everyone at the back that this series of evening gowns were from the Seductive Luxury series. At this time, all the audience's eyes widened. These evening gowns of various colors with some bare skin finally appeared. The rumors they heard were not lies. But wasn't this too beautiful? Every model was a carefully selected beauty. Whether it was the figure or the face, the average score was no less than 90. They wore dazzling evening gowns and matched 3-inch stilettos. They walked like models, firmly attracting the attention of all the audience. Every woman in the venue was attracted by these evening gowns. Some revealed their shoulders, some revealed their collarbones, some revealed half of their shoulders, some revealed their calves, and some revealed half of their thighs. There were all kinds of styles, but the only thing in common was the same 2 words, beautiful and sexy. Every model was graceful and didn't feel shy because of their bare skin. There was a kind of elegant temperament on everyone's face, as if they weren't walking on a catwalk, but in a banquet in the 21st century on Earth. Noble, elegant, beautiful, confident. Every movement of every model on the stage, every appearance, every pause, and every POS perfectly interpreted these words. The bare skin didn't become a stain. Instead, it just highlighted the characteristics of the figure and the clothes, directly magnifying each person's advantages by at least 3 times. Gorgeous, but not vulgar. Charming, but not seductive. Even though they were also women, the female audience blushed and wished they could replace them. Everyone began to imagine how beautiful they would be if they wore these beautiful evening gowns, and how dazzling they would be if they walked on the stage. That's it. I must buy them. I must buy every one of them. The audience below the stage were not those who only knew how to look, but were reluctant to spend money. Everyone shouted so in their hearts. Unfortunately, there were only 12 sets of evening gowns. After the models left, Sister Rosa's voice told everyone that the next show would be the charming series of sportswear. The light became brighter, and people could see more clearly. A model, wearing a hairband on her head, a close-fitting, navel-bearing vest and cropped pants, and sneakers and socks, trotted onto the stage. The music also became lively and cheerful. What the model showed everyone was the sunshine, health, vitality, and youth of this kind of sporty girl. On the catwalk, the models were all trotting, but they just ran one more lap, so that people had enough time to see them clearly. Even though he was wearing sportswear, he was still able to let himself go. Exposed calves, beautiful navel, shoulders, and collarbones. After the baptism of the previous evening gowns, the charming series of sportswear also won the appreciation of these VIP female customers. They were all experts in attracting men's attention, who didn't know how to give a man a sense of novelty at all times. The first set of home clothes, the next set of evening gowns, and then the sportswear. Every set could make the current men stunned. This trip to Dream Workshop was really the right one. Chapter 852. But obviously, the women were happy a little too early. When Sister Rosa announced that the next series of underwear was a secret series, the women didn't know what kind of shock they would receive next. The light on the catwalk was a little dim, the fragrance in the air seemed to be a little more ambiguous, and the music was more mysterious, but the sense of rhythm was still very strong. A female model came out, and there was a burst of exclamation in the audience. Then everyone's first reaction was to turn their heads with a red face and no longer dare to look at the model on the stage. The model was only wearing an underwear and a pair of 3-inch high-heeled sandals on her feet. Apart from that, there was nothing else. At least at the first sight of the women, they didn't see anything else. The female model walked from the entrance of the catwalk to the center of the catwalk confidently with her chest out. She stood in the same place and made a sexy pose. Her towering chest, flat abdomen, slender legs, fair skin, and tight-fitting doo-doo that only covered the important parts of her chest and abdomen. Everything about her gave people the urge to turn into a werewolf on a moonlit night. At this time, the female audience below discovered that the female model was wearing underwear, but the underwear was too small and too thin. From a distance, only a few straps could be seen, showing their existence on the waist and buttocks. Almost half of the audience looked at the model on the stage, dumbfounded at the moment, and they couldn't believe their eyes. How could such clothes be worn out? The Empress also felt the same, but she asked May Air directly, "Your Highness, this is underwear. It is usually worn inside, or it is kept in the boudoir and only shown to the people closest to you." May Air didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Wang Sheng had already said this to May Air and Rosa many times, and now it was May Air's turn to explain it to the Empress. May Air's voice was low, and no one around heard it. However, Sister Rosa had already explained the concept of underwear through the sound transmission array so that everyone could hear it. What Sister Rosa said was almost the same as what Mayer had said. She only explained why the model would wear it so that the audience could see the effect of the underwear. When the female audience members heard that these were undergarments to be worn inside, they breathed a sigh of relief. So that's how it was. They had almost jumped in fright. They had thought that the Dream Workshop wanted them to wear these outfits for others to see. Come to think of it, it was a misunderstanding. Not to mention underwear, even expensive home clothes and evening gowns were only for the people they cared about the most. It was the same for sportswear, not to mention underwear. To think that they would be subdued the moment they saw such sexy underwear. How could they even think of wearing it outside? Just how coquettish were they to have such an idea? When everyone understood what was going on, they looked at each other and found it funny. They were all women here. So what if the models on the stage were wearing less? They had seen too many naked women. How could they turn their heads away with a red face? How embarrassing. Looking at the underwear worn by the models from a beautiful and sexy angle, many female guests had different thoughts in their hearts. What would happen if they wore this kind of underwear? How infatuated would the man at home be? Would he run into the woman's room? The first model was still wearing an underwear, but the second model was already wearing a regular bra and panties. Although the first set of bras and panties was very conservative, it still caused an extreme shock to the audience. This was simply subverting tradition, subverting the spiritual world of those old masters, and subverting the conservative concept hidden in the deepest part of the hearts of women who loved beauty. Suddenly, these female guests saw an unprecedented sexiness in the Dream Workshop's colorful restaurant. The underwear was very traditional, and so were the regular bras and panties. However, the next 10 sets of sexy underwear made the audience blush again. They were so embarrassed that they couldn't bear it. If they were really dressed like this, how could they show their faces in front of others? However, the underwear models on the stage were still warm and generous. With a confident smile, they walked coquettishly on the stage, looking so charming. With just a casual glance, many of the female guests below would feel ashamed of their inferiority. All the women in the Dream Workshop were said to be beauties from Wang Sheng's collection. If all of them were of this standard, then Duke Changsheng could be said to be the envy of all the men in the capital. Even the emperor was no exception, because the empress also thought so. There was nothing more authoritative than her thinking. The blushing underwear show finally ended. The lights were turned on, and Sister Rosa appeared on the tea stage again, looking at the audience with a smile. The audience below the stage gradually quieted down, and all their eyes were focused on Sister Rosa, waiting for Sister Rosa to speak. This restaurant was named by Duke Chongqing himself. It's called Colorful Restaurant. Sister Rosa smiled and opened her mouth. Her voice was transmitted to all directions through the sound transmission array. The Dream Workshop was also named by Duke Chongqing. All the clothes that everyone saw before were all from the same brand, called May. This brand is only for the most distinguished, top-notch ladies and socialites in the world, which is everyone here. The Colorful Restaurant's fashion show will be held every once in a while when new products are released. The content is all the clothes, shoes, and hats under the May brand. Sister Rosa looked at the audience's reaction. When she mentioned the most distinguished, top-notch ladies and socialites, everyone below the stage nodded slightly, very satisfied. In addition, the Dream Workshop also provides another service, which is the Rosa series. When Sister Rosa talked about the Rosa series, her face was also full of pride. Wang Sheng had named it after her. If any esteemed guest feels that their figure isn't good enough, that they aren't satisfied, or that the way they walk or the way they live isn't good enough. The Rose Fitness Etiquette Service can tailor a set of effective fitness, beauty, and etiquette training for every guest. Furthermore, there will be one-on-one guidance. Of course, the service is only for everyone present. I know everyone is a little anxious, so I won't waste everyone's time. Sister Rosa smiled and announced, "Now, all distinguished guests can leave the colorful restaurant. If you want to buy May clothing, go to May City on the left. If you want to see Rosa's fitness etiquette, go to Rosa Restaurant on the right. If you have any needs, you can ask any of the service staff in the Dream Workshop." As soon as Sister Rosa's voice fell, the female guests who could no longer hold back immediately got up and rushed out of the restaurant in a mess. They were afraid that if they ran too slow, those beautiful clothes would be gone when they arrived. Chapter 853. From Qian Xingyuan to Runzi Workshop. Basically, as long as Wang Xing opened a business, there must be one characteristic, and it was definitely good stuff. On this point, no one could say a single word of objection. As they approached Runzi Workshop, it was still fine on the main street, but once they entered the beauty salon of Runzi Workshop, from the moment they stepped through the door, all the goods and services inside actually had one characteristic, and it was expensive. It was extremely expensive. Dream Workshop could only be reached by entering another door from the beauty salon of Runzi Workshop, which also meant that the consumption inside was a level higher than that of Runzi Workshop's beauty salon. A group of female VIPs rushed into the City of Charm on the left side and were stunned as soon as they entered the door. In this world, the best ready-made clothing store was only a big tailor's shop. First of all, a big tailor's counter was indispensable, and then there were ready-made clothes hanging around, which could be seen one by one. Under the counter, there were all kinds of fabrics for customers to choose from. This was the ready-made clothing store that everyone was familiar with. However, when they entered the City of Charm, they didn't see any of those familiar things. All they saw was 2 rows of houses that had been opened up, and beautiful clothes were hanging on them neatly. In front of each style, there was a model hanger made of wood with the clothes on it. It was a 3-dimensional display. A group of rich ladies and socialites who thought that they had seen the world had never seen the style of modern clothing stores on Earth. Looking at the dazzling array of clothes, they were all dumbfounded. No matter which direction or which door they entered from, they could wander around freely. How could the shop be like this? Even the cosmetic street outside Runzi Workshop didn't have such a style. But this immediately diverted the crowd of customers who were swarming in. Anyway, it was clear at a glance when they came in. Home clothes, evening gowns, sportswear, underwear, shoes, hats, hairbands, socks, and so on were clearly distinguished, and they could buy whatever they wanted. Every kind of clothing that they had seen in the colorful store just now was available here. Each style was divided into different sizes, and colors. In this way, a single style plus a color could almost take up an entire shelf. The salespeople standing by the shelves were all unbelievably beautiful women. Each of the beauties was slender and elegant, wearing a unique long cheongsam that looked very novel and accentuated their figures, setting off their outstanding classical aura. At a glance, one wouldn't dare to think of them as servants. They were clearly the daughters of wealthy families. A few female customers with good eyesight noticed the cheongsams on these salespeople at a glance. Without saying anything, they immediately grabbed the front of the cheongsams and asked where they were selling them. In the end, he was told that this was the uniform of Charm City, the Dream Workshop, and it was temporarily not available to the public. He was instantly disappointed, but fortunately, there were so many clothes that had been shown in fashion shows. There were dozens of styles, hundreds of combinations, and all kinds of shoes. For a moment, these female guests were dazzled. Fortunately, he had seen a fashion show before. Otherwise, he wouldn't know what a lot of things were for. Wouldn't that be embarrassing? What made these VIPs even happier was that there were even more clothes in Charm City that they had yet to see in the fashion show. The salesperson's explanation was that time was limited, so the fashion show was only to let the first batch of customers know some basic concepts. The same fashion show would be held for 10 consecutive days. Each day, Different clothes would be used, striving to promote the Dream Workshop's fashion show to all the VIPs. 10 days later, the fashion show would be temporarily suspended until new products were released on the market. Of course, the VIPs had to be notified before the show was held. Hearing this explanation, the female guests were even more delighted and exclaimed in surprise. This also meant that they could choose the styles that they hadn't seen before. This was great. More than 2,000 customers plunged into Charm City, which occupied half of the Dream Workshop. They didn't even make a splash before they were absorbed by the huge shopping mall. Not only did Charm City have a sufficient amount of goods, but it also had a large number of fitting rooms. There was also a huge metal mirror made by the Grandmasters of Linglong Pavilion. Although it wasn't as clear as the Mercury mirror on Earth, it was already the best mirror in the world. Especially the huge size, which allowed people to see the whole body, made a group of noble ladies overjoyed. Those who were quick had already changed into brand new clothes and were twisting in front of the mirror. At first, most people tried evening gowns and home clothes. Later, more people tried sportswear, and finally, it was the underwear section. Perhaps after realizing that all of them were women, everyone loosened up and simply wanted to try out the undergarments. In the end, they were told that the salespeople could help them measure the size of the underwear, but they weren't allowed to try it on. The reason was that the underwear was to be worn close to the body. No one wanted the underwear they bought to be worn by someone else, right? With one sentence, all the VIPs understood. Of course, the most lively section was the shoes section. No matter what clothes they bought, they had to match a pair or several pairs of suitable shoes. Models looked beautiful and sexy when they walked in high heels, but they couldn't even walk after putting them on. At this time, the salespeople suggested that the customers go to Rosa Gallery to take a look. Since they were already here, shouldn't they all want to take a look? A group of customers rushed to Rosa Gallery together. As soon as they entered the door, they were shocked again. A group of young and energetic girls, wearing all kinds of clothes-fitting sportswear, were either doing exercises on some sports equipment or doing soft gymnastics on some cushions. Every movement and every posture showed either youthful vitality or the temptation of their bodies. Even as a woman, they felt extremely tempted. Think about what those stinky men would do if they saw it. As soon as they came in, someone received them. First, they took the customers to see the exercise equipment. In addition to the exercise of flexibility, they also took them to the swimming pool to have a look. Looking at the beautiful figures of the women in tight and revealing swimsuits in the swimming pool, the customers already didn't know how to walk. Then, naturally, they took the VIPs to learn how to walk in high heels. At the beginning, they would definitely recommend shoes with slightly lower and thicker heels. Step by step. In the practice room, the 4 huge mirror walls directly stunned another group of customers. Wearing clothes that were not neat enough on their bodies, how could they tell whether they were good or bad? Therefore, a set of fitness clothes that accentuated their figures and a pair of practice shoes were directly sold. These customers wouldn't share them with others. They only needed the price. In Wang Sheng's words, those who still asked for the price after entering the Dream Workshop were basically people who couldn't afford it and didn't need to pay too much attention to them. Chapter 854. Women's pursuit of beauty was simply endless. In order to learn how to walk in high heels, all the women who came to Dream Workshop today signed up for the most basic etiquette training after spending a lot of money. There was no exception. In addition, the various shaping methods also brought a whole new space for these female customers, especially those beautiful models in their eyes. It was said that these methods were used to shape the beautiful models in their eyes. No one could hold back anymore. In the one-to-one service, the customers could choose an exclusive fitness coach to teach them a series of courses from the most basic etiquette training to the most advanced bodybuilding and body shaping to palace etiquette training. Half of the more than 2,000 people signed up for this program alone. The other half were not unwilling to sign up, but they were not qualified to sign up. Half of the people who came to Dream House today were brought in by the truly high-end female clients. They were allowed to buy things, but they were limited to 2 sets. They were allowed to undergo the most basic etiquette training, but they were not allowed to enjoy the more advanced Rose services. Differential treatment was also a sales strategy that Wang Sheng had mentioned. It would encourage the women who saw the beauty of Dream Workshop to become members of Dream Workshop at all costs. The ultimate goal of Rose's service, in the most vulgar words, was to be able to go up to the main hall, cook in the kitchen, enter the bridal chamber, win over the mistress, and win over the mistress. Of course, the last sentence was to let the customers serve the dishes. If it was the mistress, she would only say that she could win over the mistress. If it was the mistress, she would say that she could win over the mistress. There would always be a suitable group of people. Are you going to cultivate a group of enemies for me? Of course, the Empress knew all about it. Mayer told the Empress everything in detail, which made the Empress speechless. So, Your Highness, you have to come often to win over them. Mayer did not hide her purpose. It was nothing more than to keep her, the most distinguished customer. You, the Empress pointed a finger at Mayer's forehead. You stupid girl, you just watched that Rosa climb into Duke Chongqing's bed. Aren't you jealous at all? Don't I have a special body condition? Mayer replied shyly. When Duke's cultivation reaches the 8th stage, there's no need to worry. In any case, you have to be careful. That Rosa is a disciple of Victorious Return Palace's hidden hall. There's also an old witch guiding her from behind. You absolutely cannot be replaced by her. The Empress warned Mayer in a low voice. Don't worry. Mayer was very confident about this. The Duke is not that kind of person. If he had a heart to dote on beautiful women, which one of the hundreds of beautiful women serving him was bad, but did the Duke move a single one? You are lucky to meet such a man, the Empress said with a little relief. She thought her husband. There were still dozens of concubines in the dream house. As she sighed, the Empress forcefully turned her attention from the back palace back to what was in front of her. He had to admit that the items in the dream workshop were simply too tempting. Even she, the dignified Empress, wanted to disregard everything and bring a set home, let alone others. There was no cash transaction in the dream workshop. Everything was paid with the VIP cards of the VIPs. The female customers knew this when they received the notice, so they all topped up a lot of gold coins into their VIP cards in advance. The lowest was 100,000, the highest was 1,000,000, and so on. Since they couldn't see the gold coins, they didn't feel any heartache when they passed them by. This was the advantage of using cards for transactions. There was no concept of spending money at all. They could just use the cards, and it was simply too enjoyable. The people who came in with the VIPs didn't spend much because there was a limit on their spending. However, almost everyone bought 2 sets. As for those who were VIPs, they almost emptied the dream workshop. On average, each person bought 7 or 8 sets of clothing and more than 10 pairs of shoes. As for Rosa's services, they were all custom-made, exclusive, one-to-one services. The business of a dream workshop was beautiful and sexy. Of course, the goods in the dream workshop could only be described in one word: expensive. The cheapest set of home clothes cost 5,000 gold coins. The cheapest set of underwear, which was the most conservative set, cost 8,000 gold coins. The rest were all more expensive than the last. At first, Mayer thought it was normal and didn't think much of it. However, when Sister Rosa nervously delivered half a day's turnover to Mayer, Mayer was also shocked. The average spending of the 1,000 VIPs brought in was 20,000 gold coins. The average spending of the 1,000 VIPs was 150,000 gold coins. In other words, the turnover of the Dream Workshop had reached 180 million gold coins in half a day. Even though Mayer was one of the rare rich people, she only had a concept of numbers for gold coins, so she didn't find it strange. However, when she saw the number, she still froze on the spot, dumbfounded. As for Sister Rosa, when she saw the number, she was completely dumbfounded. Whether it was in Carefree City or Triumph Palace, when Sister Rosa saw this kind of turnover, she had never seen such a turnover. During the busiest period of the Hall of Assassins, did their monthly turnover reach this figure? One had to know that after deducting the cost, a third of the turnover belonged to Sister Rosa and the sisters in the Wang residence. Even if the cost was 30 million gold coins, the profit was still 50 million gold coins. This was including the fixed cost of the house and land in one go. This was only one day, although the custom-made Rosa services were issued once every 3 months, which meant that they wouldn't be able to receive other gold coins for 3 months. The problem was that the clothes, underwear, and shoes could be replaced every few days. If this trend continued, wouldn't it be a few hundred million in a year? How was the Duke finding an industry for the ladies to settle down in? It was clear that he had found them a huge treasure bowl that was inexhaustible. With the support of such financial resources, the side effects of heaven and earth reversal were simply a drizzle. Following such a Duke, what was there to be dissatisfied with? Could it be that those fellows from Triumph Palace were satisfied by selling their sisters? Moreover, even if they sold them for a high price, it would only be a little more than 1 million gold coins. Compared to the Duke's big hand, Triumph Palace was just a dreg and deserved to be exterminated. The Empress had always been with May-er, so if May-er saw this number, the Empress would naturally also see it. With just a glance, even if the Empress was already the mother of the world and had seen many things, seeing this number still made her blood rush to her head in an instant. 50 million gold coins belonged to the Empress, and this was just one day's business. Even if the sales gradually decreased and stabilized, it would still not be less than a few million gold coins. One day, compared to Wang Sheng's business, what kind of money was that? That was nothing. Chapter 855. How much? 2 consecutive sounds. The first one was the sound of the Emperor spitting out a mouthful of tea, and the second one was the sound of him asking in surprise. The Empress returned to the imperial city in a daze and saw the Emperor. Then, she expressionlessly told him about what she saw in the dream workshop today. At first, the Emperor listened with great interest. He even had some lewd fantasies in his mind. He was probably looking forward to the scene of the Empress wearing those sexy underwear and appearing in front of him. But when the Empress finally told him about the turnover and roughly analyzed the profit he could get based on what he knew, the Emperor directly spat out the tea. He didn't care about his status as the Emperor at all, earning 50 million gold coins in a day. Why did this sound so fantastical? But the Emperor knew that this wasn't a joke. The Empress had been with May-er the whole time and saw it with her own ears. How many experts could the royal family train with so much gold coins? But this amount of gold coins was only the daily consumption of a group of prodigal women. Oh my God! How much? The same scene happened in many noble families. The same thing was that they all spat out the tea. The difference was that when they asked how much, they didn't ask how much Wang Sheng earned, but how much their prodigal women spent in a day. If I went to Carefree City to hire a red card killer to kill an expert, it would be around this amount. Countless people pointed at their own prodigal woman and almost cursed it out loud. You spent so much on me in one day. Then, some of the old masters realized that the beautiful wives and concubines in front of them today were slightly different. Taking a closer look, they realized that the clothes on their bodies had changed. Not only were they more clean-cut and beautiful, but their curves were also more distinct, especially the way they walked, with their slender waists and pert buttocks swaying. It was exceptionally attractive. Master, a delicate voice sounded, but it was a fresh tone that had never been heard before. When this group of men was brought into the bedroom by their wives and concubines, they enjoyed an unprecedented visual enjoyment. After enjoying the unprecedented novelty, they no longer said anything about spending some gold coins. Of course, there were even more people who were persuaded by the coquettish tone of their wives and concubines, allowing them to join the group of VIPs in Dream House. What a joke! This was a matter of face. Even a concubine from another family was an esteemed guest of the Dream House. Did it mean that even his wife was not qualified to enter the Dream House? He couldn't afford to lose face like this. That night, all the women in the mansion, from elder sister Rosa to Tantai Yao, looked lost. They were all shocked, so shocked that they didn't know what to say. After the initial shock, all the women in the prince's mansion burst into tears. Apart from Tantai Yao and Sister Rosa, these women were all pitiful. Even Tantai Yao and Sister Rosa were only in slightly better conditions than the rest. The others were sold and reduced to slaves, while the two of them were living under someone else's roof. Fortunately, Rosa could now live in the Duke's mansion, but Tantai Yao might not be able to. No matter what, they had never thought that one day they would have their own property that truly belonged to them in their cultivation or in their lives of enduring humiliation since they were young. Even if they had thought about it, it was just wishful thinking. Because of their background, their looks, and their figures, they were destined to be treated as playthings by those big shots. There would never be anything that truly belonged to them. However, after the opening of Dream House, things that they never dared to think about suddenly became real. Not only did they have their own estate, but it was also a huge estate that no one in the world dared to think about. In fact, the women in the Dream House took up the majority. Mayor took up 30%, the Empress took up 30%, and the remaining 40% belonged to them. Even though 60% was taken out, the women were quite satisfied. Mayor's 30% obviously belonged to Wang Sheng and the Duke. They all felt that Wang Sheng's share was too little. The Empress's 30% was given to the Emperor as a protection fee. They also understood this point. Doing business in someone else's territory, the Emperor had issued an imperial edict to prohibit men from entering, and he had allocated land, so there was a cost. But even the remaining 40% was enough to make each of them into the top 5% of the world's wealth. If they gathered together, they could even make it to the top 1% or even 1/1000. All of this was because of Wang Sheng, the man they acknowledged from the bottom of their hearts and were willing to follow. Wang Sheng satisfied all of their demands. They were free, didn't have to work too hard, and could earn money with their beauty and sexiness. No one would dare to have any ideas about them. What regrets did they have in this life to meet such a man? The women's tears were all tears of joy. They were completely relieved after suffering and could finally relax after not having to bear the pressure for the time being. Everything was perfect. The only regret was that Wang Sheng was not by their side now. That night, the circle of the rich and powerful in the capital went crazy. The people who went into the dream workshop excitedly told their sisters and best friends who couldn't go in for some reason. Then, it immediately caused another round of craziness. Early the next morning, thousands of people rushed in as soon as moisturizing workshop opened. Some came to apply for a moisturizing workshop gold card, while others wanted to go in and see for themselves how crazy Dream Workshop was. It was the same process as yesterday. They would watch the fashion show at Colorful Pavilion, then go shopping at Charm City or enjoy the service at Rosa Pavilion. In short, the people who went in the morning basically didn't come out until it was about to close in the afternoon. Many of the customers who went the first day went again. How could one day satisfy all kinds of shopping and fitness cravings? Moreover, many people had already signed up for Rosa's fitness etiquette suit. When many female customers entered Rosa Pavilion for the first time, they saw many rich ladies in youthful sportswear doing exercises with the fitness trainers beside them. Many of them were acquaintances, and they were all envious. Dream Workshop had been open for 3 days, and its reputation had basically spread all over the world. Of course, this was only spread among the top circle. Everyone still had a tacit understanding. How could people without status, power, or money be qualified to enjoy such a level of service? Qian Xingyuan's place was said to be full of scholars, and it was the same for Dream Workshop. There were rich ladies chatting, and there were endless people coming and going. Only the top rich ladies and socialites were qualified to enter Dream Workshop. What? You're not qualified to enter Dream Workshop? Sorry, I have something to do. Goodbye. In the distant palace of the Kingdom of Song, Song Yin looked at the report from the capital with a faint smile. Charm City clothing, Rosa's fitness etiquette suit, Colorful Pavilion. Do you still have me in your heart? Chapter 856. For several days in a row, the daily turnover of Dream Workshop was no less than 100 million. At first, the Emperor and the ladies in the Prince's mansion were all surprised, but after a few days, they got used to it. Gold coins were secondary. There was one thing that no one, including Wang Sheng, had expected, and that was the coaches of Rose's fitness etiquette service. Each of them now had at least 5 fixed clients, and the appointments were full every day. Each of these female clients was a famous lady in the capital. It could be said that Moisturizing Workshop and Dream Workshop had directly captured all the inner chambers of the capital's aristocratic circle. When the female clients began various body-shaping etiquette courses under the guidance of the coaches, they did not forget to share with the coaches what they had learned, how they had changed themselves, how they had attracted the attention of their men, and so on. After talking a lot, they naturally talked about other things such as family, power, relationships, and so on. Of course, they were all women, and they were also best at gossiping. Which family in the capital made a fool out of themselves? The first wife and the second concubine got into a fight. In order to compete for the right to be a VIP in the dream house, they refused to give in to each other. Which family had a child? Which family's noblewoman secretly kept a gigolo? And so on and so forth. Anyway, when the women were together, they said things like, "I'll tell you, but you can't tell anyone," and so on. A few days later, Sister Rosa heard these things from the conversation of her sisters and immediately realized that this was a rare channel to collect information through the inner chambers of the aristocratic families. There was no need for these coaches to deliberately guide them. As long as they triggered the chattering skills of their clients and then responded with a few words, they could get precious information that countless men of sacrifice couldn't get even if they risked their lives. What had Sister Rosa been doing in Carefree City all these years? Wasn't it to collect information for Triumph Palace? She hurriedly told the situation to Wang Sheng, and Wang Sheng nodded without hesitation. Sister Rosa was still in charge of collecting and organizing information. When she encountered something related to Wang Sheng and the others, she would immediately pay attention to it. In any case, the intelligence work was definitely prepared. After a few days, Dream Workshop's clientele had expanded to 5,000. Everyone had to apply for a Moisturizer Workshop gold card with a value of 100,000 gold coins. Even the pre-deposited gold coins of Moisturizer Workshop had surprised Mayor and the Empress for a few days. There was even more news. A group of noble ladies from various vassal states were planning to tour the capital. Of course, their main destinations were the Moisturizing Workshop and the Dream Workshop. In the past, the top-notch products of Runzi Workshop could still be bought in the capital and sent back to the major vassal states. The same could be done for the clothes of Dream Workshop, but Rose's service could not be taken out. If one wanted to enjoy it, they could only come to the capital. When the news reached Tianzi, he immediately realized that this was the expansion of the political, economic, and cultural center that Wang Sheng mentioned. It was just that the Dream Workshop was a fashion center. At least in the women's top fashion circle, it radiated from Beijing to the rest of the world. When would culture be able to achieve such a feat? For this reason, the Son of Heaven once again asked Steward Zhou to invite Wang Sheng to the Son of Heaven's courtyard for a chat. Wang Sheng did not refuse and happily went. As for Mayer, she was usually in the Dream Workshop or the Moisturizing Workshop with the Empress. She did not care about what these two men were doing. The Son of Heaven's question was very simple. He did not dare to think about the political center, but he could think about the economic and cultural center, right? How could he promote this? Isn't the Royal Theater a good cultural center? Wang Sheng knew that the Son of Heaven could not hold back, but he did not expect him to be so impatient. It was no wonder. The royal family had been suppressed for almost 500 years. How could they let go of this rare hope? But it doesn't seem to be attractive enough. The Son of Heaven said with regret. The Royal Symphony Orchestra performed again, but it was still only pursued by the nobles in the capital. Even some rich people were pursuing it, but it had not reached the point where the whole world was pursuing it. Very soon, Wang Sheng thought about the progress of Master Yu's research on the integration of spiritual energy into music and gave an affirmative answer to the Son of Heaven. He then reminded, "However, it still depends on how much support you have for the Royal Symphony Orchestra." "What do you mean?" The Son of Heaven was interested and asked quickly. It won't take long for Master Yu and the rest to figure out the secret of the Royal Theater's spiritual energy oscillation. At that time, listening to the concert will be extremely beneficial for cultivation. What do you think the people of the vassal states will think at that point? Really? Of course, the Son of Heaven knew that once something was beneficial for cultivation, it would be popular. He immediately asked excitedly. Wang Sheng nodded quietly and left the time for the Son of Heaven to think. He and Steward Zhou, who was beside him, quietly clinked their glasses and drank. What should I do? After pondering for a while, the Son of Heaven asked without hesitation. If it was in the past, I would definitely block the news, but that would definitely be a stupid idea. What should I do now? Instead, release the news and let the people of the vassal states know about the benefits. Wang Sheng answered quickly. What if they use masters to kidnap Master Yu and the rest? Even if they can't touch Master Yu, what about the other members of the orchestra? The Son of Heaven had already thought about the pros and cons and asked anxiously. You can make a public decree to build a Royal Academy of Music and invite all the top music masters in the world to teach in the Academy of Music. Those who want to learn, as long as they have enough foundation and pay the money, they can learn. After learning, there will be a graduation certificate from the Royal Academy of Music. Wang Sheng held his wine glass and answered slowly. Say, what do you think will happen if the vassal states know? Wonderful. The Son of Heaven was not a fool. He was instantly tempted. Sending masters in the capital is disrespectful to the Son of Heaven. The other vassal states can gang up and attack, and there will be benefits of titles and territories. But if you openly recruit students and don't hide anything, the vassal states will naturally send their own people to learn. But no matter how they learn, in the end, they will still have the reputation of graduating from the Royal Academy of Music. In the future, this influence will only grow, but it will not threaten the vassal states. Wonderful. The construction of the Royal Theater also requires skills. Wang Sheng reminded again. It can also be run and taught. Anyway, it's not direct cultivation, so it won't threaten the vassal states. Naturally, they will not be on guard. When there are more royal academies like this, think about what it will be like then. Chapter 857. Was there a need to think about it now? In his dreams, Tianzi didn't know how many times he had looked forward to it. When did it start? It was probably after Wang Sheng gave him the ceremonial title of feudal vassal. If all kinds of talents came from the capital, wouldn't everyone in the world belong to the capital and be Tianzi? At that time, even if those feudal vassals were unwilling, what could they do? Don't forget to strengthen yourself. Otherwise, when the time comes, your territory, property, and women will all belong to someone else. Wang Xing knew what Tianzi was thinking when he saw the expression on Tianzi's face, so he reminded him in a timely manner. Tianzi wasn't a fool. If it really came to that time, he was afraid that the feudal vassals would unite to suppress him. Therefore, some things could be thought about. Before he had the power to protect himself, it was better to be honest and down to earth. I'll listen to you. This Royal Academy of Music, Royal Academy of Architecture? Speaking of architecture, Tianzi felt that the Royal Academy of Architecture didn't sound good. He hesitated for a moment and said, "It's not appropriate to call it this, right? Then call it the Royal Academy of Arts. It is divided into various musical instruments, conducting, composition, dance, and other subdivisions. Architecture is also counted as one of them." Wang Sheng gave Tianzi an idea in a blink of an eye. This kind of thing, there were a lot of it on Earth. There's also dance? Tianzi was stunned for a moment. Wang Sheng was planning to promote those who used to be singers and dancers to the level of artists? Unique music can stimulate spiritual energy. Wang Sheng smiled and replied, "Other forms are also possible. It's just that we haven't found a way yet." "Then let's do it." Tianzi nodded without hesitation. Wasn't it just a few dancers to experiment? Maybe it would succeed. The real dance masters might have a high cultivation level. Naturally, they wouldn't dare to order them around. However, there were a lot of ordinary dancers. They could still play how they used to play. There wasn't any difference, but it gave people something to think about. Draw a square in the capital and move all the people inside. After some changes, it can become this Royal Academy of Arts. Wang Xing didn't care about Tianzi's thoughts and continued. The place is easy to handle. The problem is, where are you going to find these masters to be teachers? Where were the most experts from all walks of life? Other than the vassal states, there was only the Linglong Pavilion. Wang Sheng had reminded Tianzi a long time ago to think of ways to fight for Linglong Pavilion. He did not know how it went, so he took this opportunity to ask. The Linglong Pavilion hasn't said anything yet. Tianzi's face turned red. The progress in this aspect was really unsatisfactory. Linglong Pavilion was unmoved by force, and Tianzi couldn't force them either. They could only be in a stalemate here. Then you can only fork out the money first. Wang Sheng shook his head in disappointment. If they couldn't even deal with the Linglong Pavilion, the imperial court could only be busy with some minor matters. It wasn't that Wang Sheng didn't want to bring them along, but that they were too frustrated. Wang Sheng could easily handle things that the imperial court could not. Perhaps this was the difference. And the title of nobility. The Son of Heaven was definitely not an idiot. Just because his subordinates were incompetent did not mean that the Son of Heaven was brainless. He quickly added, honorary title, just like that master you. As long as he teaches in the Royal Academy of Arts, he will be given an honorary baron. All right, Wang Sheng nodded. This honorary title was not costly, but it could greatly enhance the status of those masters, which was suitable for them. In just a few words, a Royal Academy of Arts had been decided. The tacit understanding between the two was amazing. Tell me, when will I no longer have to worry about all the feudal lords in the world? Tianzi suddenly felt something and asked Wang Sheng, when you dare to tear down the city wall of the capital? Wang Sheng looked up at Tianzi and replied directly, tear down the city wall of the capital? Tianzi's eyes suddenly flashed as he stared at Wang Sheng. Wang Sheng didn't care at all. He drank when he should, but Steward Zhou, who was beside him, had his heart in his throat. The Son of Heaven's eyes were obviously angry. Duke Changsheng could say anything else, but he actually said to tear down the city wall of the capital. Previously, the second prince had just rebelled, and there was no result yet. Wasn't Wang Sheng sprinkling salt on the Son of Heaven's wound? But soon, the Son of Heaven's eyes softened. He seemed to understand what Wang Sheng wanted to say. Wang Sheng was talking about the city wall of the capital, not the imperial city wall. And to be honest, what was the use of the city wall now? In addition to defending against the ordinary people, could it defend against the masters of the feudal lords? It was obviously just for show. If one day the Son of Heaven dared to tear down the city wall of the capital, it meant that the Son of Heaven had won the hearts of the residents in the capital. With the hearts of the people, what was the difference if there was no city wall? On the contrary, if there was no city wall, it would make the people more loyal. I hope it will be a day. Tianzi sighed and no longer said anything. In his heart, he kept rejoicing. Fortunately, when he first met Wang Sheng scared him. Otherwise, if he dealt with Wang Sheng recklessly, he was afraid that the Son of Heaven would be a different person. How could there be the light now and hope in the future? This meeting gave the Son of Heaven hope, but it also made the Son of Heaven a little bleak. Of course, the main reason wasn't Wang Sheng, but the courtiers who were in charge of the affairs. After such a long time, they still couldn't win over Linglong Pavilion. They were not as useful as Wang Sheng alone. They were really useless. As for why Wang Sheng suddenly said to tear down the city wall of the capital, the Son of Heaven wouldn't simply think that Wang Sheng just wanted to talk about the city wall. Although what Wang Sheng said was indeed reasonable, the Son of Heaven always felt that Wang Sheng was reminding him of something. What does he mean? The Son of Heaven gathered the three great consecrators and asked. The three great consecrators looked at each other. No one spoke, and no one dared to speak. They were all old and experienced people. How could they not see that the Son of Heaven was in a difficult situation? Last time when the second prince rebelled, Wang Sheng saved the Son of Heaven. At that time, the Son of Heaven said that the second prince would be interrogated for a few days. After the interrogation, the head would be sent to him. But now, Wang Sheng went to the core area of the Thousand Despair for half a year. The second prince and the few royal ancestors were still locked up in the prison. How could they be sent over? Now the Son of Heaven asked about this. Only God knew if Wang Sheng wanted the second prince's head. Who dared to answer? Say, if there is no punishment after rebelling, what will happen in the future? The Son of Heaven seemed to have thought it through and asked the three. Then perhaps everyone will think of rebelling once they have the chance. Manager Li replied without hesitation, anyway, there will be no loss. Chapter 858. The three elders had served the Son of Heaven since childhood. How could they not hear the change in the Son of Heaven's mood just now? Manager Li's answer was actually the Son of Heaven's own intention. Yes, the Son of Heaven sighed. If you do something wrong, you have to pay the price. Even if I'm wrong, it's the same. Originally, the Royal Academy of Arts could be in our hands, but those pigs couldn't even do such a small thing as winning over Linglong Pavilion. This involved the officials in the court, and the three elders certainly wouldn't say anything. However, they were obviously very contemptuous of those people. If they couldn't even do such a small thing, what was the use of them? The Son of Heaven suddenly realized that what Wang Sheng did seemed to be a replica of what he was about to do. For example, Wang Sheng accepted a bunch of beauties, did business, and made a lot of money. These things had no threat to the Son of Heaven's royal power. Money was money. But Wang Sheng didn't show any ambitions other than enjoyment and cultivation. Thus, the Son of Heaven had almost no doubt about Wang Sheng. If the major vassals had the same understanding of the Son of Heaven and the royal family, thinking that the Son of Heaven was just making money and playing with all kinds of art, then who would still think that the royal family was a threat? But the influence had unknowingly penetrated into all aspects of life. There were some things that were far more impressive than saying them out loud. It was far better to do it and let people see the results. Now that the Son of Heaven had thought about it, he finally saw the actual effect from Wang Sheng. Speaking of strength, Wang Sheng was just a lowly barbarian at the beginning. Where did his strength come from? Speaking of influence, Wang Sheng was a lone commander in the past. Later, he saved Mayor and the others, which added up to less than 30 to 50 people. Then in just a few years, he developed into such a behemoth in the capital. This was all witnessed by the Son of Heaven. However, the Son of Heaven never felt that Wang Sheng was a threat, but Wang Sheng's influence skyrocketed under his eyes. The current Wang Sheng, how many people dared to casually provoke him? Wasn't this the way to the rise of the royal family in the future? The second prince, the two ancestors of the imperial clan court, and the several royal uncles involved will be beheaded at noon tomorrow. Send his head to Duke Chongqing's mansion. The emperor finally made a decision. Confiscate the family property of these people, put their families into slavery, leave their things, and send all the gold coins and people to Duke Chongqing's residence as an investment for the Royal Academy of Arts. The three great reverends hurriedly bowed and obeyed the order without a word of nonsense. They immediately split up and started to get busy. The emperor couldn't help but sigh with emotion. If the officials in the imperial court had half of the thoughts of the three great consecrators, some things would have been done long ago. Wang Sheng didn't expect Tianzi to be so efficient. After seeing Tianzi on the first day, Steward Zhou personally brought a big box to his door at noon the next day. At this moment, Wang Sheng had just finished his meal with Master Yu and was about to go to the small theater to listen to Master Yu's recent achievements. Before he even saw Steward Zhou, Wang Sheng could already smell the thick stench of blood from afar. When he saw Steward Zhou, he frowned. Duke Chongqing, these are the heads that His Majesty owed you before you set off. Steward Zhou bowed to Wang Sheng and then asked someone to open the box without a word. There were more than 10 fresh human heads inside. Looking at the bones and flesh, they were clearly chopped off not long ago. The second prince, 2 elders from the imperial clan court, 4 royal uncles, and a few officials' heads. A total of 17 heads, not one less. I've sent them to your mansion. Steward Zhou didn't care that Master Yu was by Wang Sheng's side. After explaining the origins of the heads in the box, he added, the family property of these people will be counted and sent to you. His Majesty said that this is the funds for the construction of the Royal Academy of Arts. Hearing this, Wang Sheng didn't say anything, but Master Yu, who was at the side, had already widened his eyes. Luckily, Master Yu had a sense of propriety and didn't say anything. He quietly watched Steward Zhou leave after explaining. When he left, Steward Zhou didn't forget to greet Master Yu. "Duke, what's going on with this Royal Academy of Arts?" Master Yu asked urgently after Steward Zhou left. "The royal family intends to build an academy and invite a master like you to teach there. They want to accept all kinds of talented students in the arts, such as musical instruments, conducting, dancing, painting, architecture, and so on. They want to pass down what they are proud of in their lives." Wang Sheng explained to Master Yu simply. "The teachers will all have the title of honorary baron. After the students finish their studies, they will receive a graduation certificate. In the future, this Royal Academy of Arts will be the top institution in the arts." Hearing this, Master Yu's eyes were about to turn red. He didn't care about the title of honorary baron, but to be able to accept all the talented students in the world and pass down what he had learned was more important than anything else. "Don't be agitated, Master." Wang Sheng could see that Master Yu was agitated and hurriedly reminded him, "Currently, this academy is only in name. We need to clear a square in the capital in a short period of time and put it up for sale. Also, for now, the only music teacher I can find is you, Master. Master Lu is one of them. As for the rest, I still need your help. It's my duty." Master Yu calmed down from his agitation and nodded without hesitation. Coming out of seclusion after seeing eye to eye with Wang Sheng was the best decision he had ever made in the past few decades. These heads. After mentioning the Royal Academy of Arts, Master Yu suddenly remembered the origin of these heads. Oh my! 1 prince, 2 elders from the imperial clan court, 4 royal uncles, and 10 important officials of the imperial court. Since what did the emperor owe Wang Sheng heads? It's just a small matter, not worth mentioning. Wang Sheng waved his hand and ignored him. He got someone to move the box away and find a place to dispose of it. Steward Zhou was really something. Luckily, this guy was sent over after the meal. Otherwise, Master Yu might not even have the appetite to eat. They can use spiritual energy in their performance? A little bit, but I'm not sure if it will work, so I want to invite you over to take a look. When Master Yu started talking about music, everything else was immediately thrown to the back of his mind. I've practiced for almost half a month. Success or failure depends on this. Wang Sheng did not waste any time. He immediately called a few senior Taoists of the Qing generation and went straight to the Duke's Mansion small theater. Mei and Rosa had been so busy these 2 days that they were not in the mansion at all. Hence, he did not call them. These few people were enough. When they arrived at the small theater, the musicians were already ready. Before the performance, Master Yu first told everyone about the Royal Academy of Arts. After everyone was excited, he then started the performance. Chapter 859. In less than half a month, these musicians had already integrated spiritual qi into their music. It was indeed not easy. These days, apart from his own cultivation, Wang Sheng had been paying attention to the business of the dream house. He rarely paid attention to Master Yu. Today, he was pleasantly surprised by Master Yu. However, it seemed that the musicians were more surprised than the others. After all, most of these people were from the capital, and they knew better than anyone else how glorious it would be if they could have the title of a member of the royal family in the future. Whether they were members of the Royal Symphony Orchestra or graduates of the Royal Academy of Arts, they would never have to worry about being treated as ordinary musicians. The music was still an old song, but it used spiritual qi during the performance. Fortunately, the musical instruments they were using were personally made by Master Yu. If they were using ordinary instruments, they would have been shattered by the spiritual qi of the musicians due to poor control. Master Yu had already predicted this. Therefore, during practice, he tolerated the sound quality of the ordinary instruments and let everyone practice with ordinary instruments. During this period, at least a few hundred instruments were broken. Only then did they manage to grasp the technique of using spiritual qi during the performance. Master Yu only allowed them to change to Master Yu's work after the ordinary instruments were played several times in a row and there were no more shattering sounds. This way, they could satisfy the needs of the timbre and the integration of spiritual qi. After practicing a few more times on the chicken-skinned instruments, Master Yu came to invite Wang Sheng over. These days, Wang Sheng's loss of control of spiritual qi became more and more serious. Using the four-word formula at the same time was several times more difficult than using the three-word formula. Even with the battle consciousness of the little person to optimize the calculation, there were still signs of serious loss of control during cultivation. As soon as Master Yu conducted the music, Wang Sheng seemed to immediately enter the state of cultivation with the rhythm of Master Yu's music. The 9 syllables of the four-word formula seemed to only adapt to this situation. It was extremely obedient, allowing Wang Sheng to easily master the trick. However, this time, the Qin cohort had no time to pay attention to Wang Sheng because they had already felt the clear phenomenon of spiritual qi resonance from the small theater. Just as Wang Sheng expected, the spirit qi oscillation caused by Master Yu's spirit qi was too weak. When dozens of people played at the same time because they were all following the rhythm of Master Yu's baton, they were extremely unified. The spirit qi released by each person caused a spirit qi resonance on their bodies and instruments. Then, this resonance expanded to the whole small theater through Master Yu and caused the array to oscillate. The array formation of the theater was designed to transmit sound to various locations. The vibration of the array formation was amplified and resonated with the audience. The vibration caused by this kind of music, because of its rapid rhythm and mixed with a kind of emotion, caused the audience to involuntarily cultivate along with it. Even though everyone's cultivation was different, under the guidance of this kind of music, everyone breathed according to the same rhythm. Unknowingly, it made people feel the taste of peerless masters and also the average level of spirit qi. Even though some were not at their own level, after tasting all kinds of tastes, it gave people a completely different feeling of cultivation. After a few songs, Wang Sheng did not say a word. His eyes were closed, and his fingers would sometimes move to beat the beat, feeling very comfortable and enjoyable. The Qin cohort had a different feeling. It was as if they were in an area surrounded by masters, and countless people were cultivating side by side with them, hand in hand. They were working together and breaking through all kinds of difficulties without any distractions. Later, even Master Yu and the performing musicians found that they did not need to control their instruments anymore. They would instinctively play according to the unique rhythm, and he did not need to control his spirit qi either. The spirit qi of everyone in the band seemed to have condensed into one, moving according to the unique rhythm and melody. Soon, Master Yu realized that it was probably because of his harmonious and unified command that led the whole band to play smoothly, so that all the cultivation rhythm was integrated into the music. Everyone had the opportunity to participate in this kind of collective cultivation. Some things that they couldn't understand in the past suddenly became clear to them, and they completely understood. The spirit qi started from the performers and then flowed among the band members under Master Yu's command. Finally, it was amplified by the surrounding sound effect formation, spreading to the whole theater. At this time, the whole theater was indescribably a spirit-gathering formation that was stronger than ordinary spirit-gathering formation, and it was also a spirit-gathering formation that was promoting everyone's cultivation. Following the rhythm of the music, Wang Sheng continuously tried using dozens of four-word formulas at the same time. Then the spirit qi in his body seemed to have turned on some kind of switch. With a click, an invisible barrier was broken, and countless spirit qi flowed into Wang Sheng's body. Advancing from the third realm to the fourth realm actually happened in the process of listening to music. Countless spirit qi from heaven and earth flowed into the small theater from all directions, and along the formation, it fed everyone in the theater. Of course, the one who benefited the most was still Wang Sheng. The main target of the heaven and earth tempering was Wang Sheng. The spirit chi that could be dispersed by the formation was just the bits and pieces that escaped during the advancement. But even if it was only fragmented, it was still the majestic spiritual chi of heaven and earth when it was tempering one's body. Everyone could feel this huge amount of spiritual chi. They could feel a part of the spiritual chi drilling into their bodies. That feeling was really good. When all the music stopped, Wang Sheng's spirit chi tempering had also reached the last step, and it was just completed. It was exactly the same as the sound of the music stopping. In the past, after the performance, everyone would stand up and applaud, but not this time. Everyone sat in their seats and felt the process just now. There was very little experience in collective cultivation, and no one wanted to miss out on what they had just comprehended in the state of cultivation. After a full hour, everyone finally woke up from that state of summation one after another. At this point, there was no need for Wang Sheng to say anything. Everyone knew that the concert was a complete success, and it was quite a complete success. "Duke, how was it?" Master Yu asked Wang Sheng, who was looking at him with a smile. "I've already advanced again. What do you think?" Wang Sheng was grinning from ear to ear. This kind of cultivation experience was really rare. After the audience in the Royal Theater experienced it together, he believed that they would go crazy in love with the concert. Chapter 860. This time, there was no need to talk about the music, just the effect of the spiritual chi oscillation. Master Yu had personally directed it, so how could he not know what had happened during that period? It was just that this was the first time he had felt such a strong spiritual chi oscillation, so he was not sure. But when he heard Wang Sheng say that he had advanced again, Master Yu's heart was at ease. It must be something that could make Wang Sheng cultivate and advance by listening to music. Didn't he see that the few Taoists of the Qing generation next to him were still immersed in that state of cultivation? Everyone did not dare to speak loudly, for fear of disturbing the few Taoists of the Qing generation. So they began to ponder what they had learned during the performance, what they were most proud of, where they played poorly, and so on. Of course, Wang Sheng, like everyone else, began to check the changes in his body. He had advanced again, and this was the fourth stage. Wang Sheng hadn't expected that his 4 breakthroughs after his cultivation had fallen would all be related to Master Yu's concert. Wang Sheng wouldn't let go of such a treasure. No matter what, he had to time Master Yu and the other great grandmasters he had invited to the Duke's mansion. The number of apertures was still the same, 128, no change, but the size of the apertures gave people a feeling that it had become bigger. At the 3rd stage, it was the size of a ping-pong ball, and at the 4th stage, it had become the size of a softball, expanded several times. The feeling of the spiritual chi rushing in the apertures was several times stronger than at the 4th stage, and it felt as abundant as at the 7th stage. Sure enough, what old Taoist Ling Su said was right. Starting from the beginning, the foundation would be much more solid. However, Wang Sheng also found it strange. He didn't use many nourishing elixirs or anything like that. Every time he was done, he would take an elixir to nourish himself. For him to be able to advance so quickly after recultivation was definitely not due to the more than 100 elixirs he had eaten a long time ago. The only explanation was the 9 syllables of the multi-word formula. It was indeed very useful. Wang Sheng now found that the rhythm of the music could help Wang Sheng straighten out the use of the 9 words formula. For a long time, Wang Sheng must have spent his time enjoying the music. After advancing to the 4th stage, Wang Sheng saw a pool of spiritual liquid in the big pool in the solescent space. Before, there was only 1 drop. Now, there was probably a puddle, although the amount was still very small and did not even cover the bottom of the pool. Wang Sheng could still feel the astonishing spiritual energy contained in the thin pool of spiritual liquid. By the time he returned to the 7th stage realm, the speed of the black viper soul absorbing spiritual chi would increase by several folds or even 10 folds. Hopefully, he would be able to complete the black viper transformation as soon as possible. The few old Taoists of the Qing generation finally woke up from that state. Their cultivation levels were about the same, so they were awake for about the same amount of time. As soon as they woke up, the old Taoists of the Qing generation stood up and bowed to Master Yu. Then, they turned around and bowed to Wang Sheng. This was a big gesture. As the secular disciple of old Taoist Ling Su, Wang Sheng did not mind accepting such a gesture. However, Master Yu felt that he could not accept it and hurriedly returned the gesture. "Thank you, Master. You have shown us a brand new way of cultivation." Qing Chun expressed his gratitude on behalf of everyone. Master Yu tried to reject it, but still accepted the gesture in the end. At this point, there was no need for anyone to say anything. Everyone knew that the addition of spiritual qi to the music was considered a success. Master Yu kept blaming himself. Why did he not think of this method in the past? Of course, even if Master Yu had thought of it at that time, it would have been meaningless. He did not have Wang Sheng's financial resources to build a big theater and set up so many sound effects formations to verify it. "Duke, the effect is there, but you still need to give us some pointers." Master Yu grabbed Wang Sheng. If Wang Sheng did not leave something behind, he would not be able to leave. Fortunately, even though Wang Sheng was cultivating, he could still clearly feel the state of everyone's performance. He remembered clearly. Faced with such a situation, he could only say some unpleasant words. Like before, Wang Sheng continued to give pointers to them one by one. He was able to point out when they were using their spirit energy at the wrong time, whether it was too much, too little, too fast, or too slow. Wang Sheng was able to point out the tacit understanding between them one by one. This also benefited the band members greatly. Practice for another 3 to 5 days. Perform at the Royal Theater and give those guys a surprise. Wang Sheng finally set a performance date for the Royal Symphony Orchestra. This time, we will increase the performance fee by 10 times. Let's see how many people will be regretting it. That night, Wang Sheng dragged Meyer and Rosa to listen to Master Yu and the rest performance again. Of course, they did not miss out on the Qing generation. They were still guest guards for Wang Sheng. With the success of the first time and the obvious shortcomings pointed out by Wang Sheng, they had corrected a lot in most of the afternoon. The second performance was even more exciting. Everyone was baptized by music again. The old Taoists of the Qing generation seemed to feel something again, but they were not sure. It was estimated that they would have to experiment a few more times before they could come to a conclusion. However, Meyer and Sister Rosa gave Wang Sheng a surprise. Sister Rosa was like Wang Sheng. This time, she was able to advance along with the rhythm of the music during the performance. She directly used spiritual qi to temper her body. Even when the performance was over, Sister Rosa did not stop and maintain the state of spiritual qi tempering. This time, no one asked Wang Sheng for any shortcomings. Master Yu left quietly with the musicians. Wang Sheng and the few Qing generation Taoists sat in the same place, waiting for Rosa to advance successfully. After a full 4 hours, Sister Rosa's spiritual qi tempering was finally completed. "Sister Rosa, what realm are you in now?" Wang Sheng asked hurriedly when Sister Rosa had completed her advancement. "7th realm." Sister Rosa replied with a smile, looking very happy. However, Wang Sheng seemed to see a blush flash across Sister Rosa's face. Wang Sheng did not understand. Shouldn't she be happy at this time? Why was she embarrassed? "Duke, my cultivation has also advanced." While Wang Sheng was happy for Sister Rosa, Meyer, who was next to him, suddenly hugged Wang Sheng's neck excitedly. "I have reached the peak of the 5th realm. You promised me." Meyer's original soul was a 4-star illusion spiritual fox. Wang Sheng originally planned to teach Meyer how to advance her original soul when her cultivation reached the peak of the 4th realm. Later, Meyer used the royal secret method given by Her Majesty the Empress to advance the 4-star illusion spiritual fox to 5 stars. Now that her cultivation had reached the peak of the 5th realm, it was time for Meyer's original soul to advance further. "I remember." Wang Sheng smiled and patted Meyer's shoulder. "Go and arrange Master Yu's performance first. Then wash up and prepare some food and wine. I will tell you alone." Chapter 861. At this time, it was almost midnight. Midnight was the time when Wang Sheng cultivated. Mayer also knew this habit of Wang Sheng, so she obediently went to take care of everything. The effect of the four-word formula was at least 10 times stronger than the three-word formula. Although Wang Sheng's realm had increased, the speed of his cultivation had also increased by several times. However, Wang Sheng still had to verify some other combinations in his cultivation. These things in this aspect would inevitably cause the spiritual qi to go out of control from time to time, but there was no other way. Mayer had already taken a bath and changed into a refreshing light gauze. She waited quietly in the room. She did not know why Wang Sheng wanted her to take a bath. She was a little nervous, but also a little expectant. Wang Sheng finally finished his cultivation and returned to the bedroom. Mayer had already ordered people to send food and wine on time. She then dismissed the maidservant and quietly waited for Wang Sheng alone. Something like the upgrade of the origin spirit was very important. It was impossible to let a second person know. Hearing the sound of Wang Sheng's footsteps, Mayer stood up and walked to the door. Like a little wife opening the door for her husband, she opened the door to the bedroom. Wang Sheng had just finished his cultivation. He walked back and saw this scene. He smiled at Mayer and helped Mayer close the door. They walked to the table together. Mayer, do you believe me? Wang Sheng asked Mayer seriously after drinking a few cups of wine with Mayer. Of course. Mayer answered without hesitation. How much do you believe me? Wang Sheng asked again. If there's a pit of fire in front of you and I told you to walk over, would you walk over? Yes. Mayer answered very simply. Then she asked Wang Sheng, Duke, why do you ask this? Because everyone in the world thinks that source spirits can't be upgraded, but I'm telling you that it can be upgraded. What's the difference between this and jumping into a pit of fire? Wang Sheng answered Mayer's question very seriously. You know, I'm challenging the common sense of all cultivators in the world, so I have to ask, do you believe me? What if I don't believe you? Of course, Mayer wouldn't doubt Wang Sheng. She just wanted to know the consequences of not trusting him. If you don't believe it, nothing will happen. Wang Sheng smiled. It doesn't sound too serious. Mayer smiled. Has the Duke forgotten? My source spirit was originally 4 stars, but now it has become 5 stars. Therefore, the extreme common sense that the Duke mentioned doesn't exist for me. Wang Sheng was stunned for a moment, and then he understood. The Empress had a secret technique that could raise the spirit by a star, which was already challenging the common sense of the world. Since it could be raised by 1 star, it was not so incomprehensible to raise several stars. In this way, it would be much easier for Mayer's source spirit to upgrade. At least she didn't have that kind of cognitive limitation and obstacle for the time being. Standing up, Wang Sheng walked to Mayer's side. Suddenly, he reached out and picked up Mayer from the seat. Mayer groaned and naturally put her arms around Wang Sheng's neck. She put her little face on Wang Sheng's neck, closed her eyes, and let Wang Sheng carry her to the bed. Carefully putting Mayer on the bed, Wang Sheng sat next to her and looked down at the beautiful little seductress. Although Mayer rarely teased Wang Sheng in this period of time, but when Mayer seriously worked like a strong woman, that kind of fatal attraction was stronger than ever. If Wang Sheng did not use the 9 secret words, he would not have been able to control himself. This also showed how powerful the illusion spirit Fox's source spirit was. Only a 5-star source spirit at the 5th layer, but it was already so captivating. If she really followed Wang Sheng's instructions to raise her source spirit in the direction of the 9-tailed celestial fox, then what kind of world would she be able to topple in the 9-tailed celestial fox realm? Mayer was incomparably shy under Wang Sheng's gaze. In addition, she was wearing a gauze dress, faintly revealing her snow-white skin. She was already somewhat looking forward to it, and, at this moment, she could not suppress it. Her breathing became hurried, her face was red, and she did not dare to look at Wang Sheng. She closed her eyes and tilted her head, as if to avoid Wang Sheng's gaze. Mayer, you grew up in Bao Qing Yutang. When did you know that you are not the biological daughter of the Bao Qing Yutang old Master Zhu? Wang Sheng's right hand gently fell on Mayer's waist, and he asked in a low voice, When I first took over the Bao Qing Yutang as the young master, Mei replied with her eyes closed. Then have you ever thought of looking for your biological parents? Wang Sheng continued to ask. No. Mei directly shook her head. The world is so big, and I don't even have a single clue. How could I look for them? Then do you hate them? Wang Sheng asked again. It would be a lie to say that I don't hate them. Mei opened her eyes and looked curiously at Wang Sheng. But I'm already used to it. Duke, why did you think of asking this? Wang Sheng's hand had already slowly fallen on the base of Mei Er's thigh. He gently lifted up Mei Er's gauze dress and slightly moved the edge of Mei Er's underwear. He then saw an obvious black mole on the left side of Mei Er's groin. The shadow eunuch had written to Wang Sheng at the dinner table in Carefree City that the real princess had a black mole at the base of her thigh. Now that Wang Sheng had seen that mole, coupled with the fact that Mei had a physique that was identical to the empress, Wang Sheng was 90% sure that Mei was the princess that the emperor had lost back then. I have heard of a story. Do you want to hear it? Wang Sheng had been back for a long time, and he had actually wanted to confirm it with Mei for a long time, but he had delayed it until now. He was a little hesitant about whether he should tell Mei about this or not. Now Wang Sheng planned to tell Mei the secret of upgrading his source spirit. Before that, Wang Sheng also hoped that Mei would know his true identity, so that she would be able to resolve the regrets in her heart. Then she would be able to wholeheartedly break through to the realm that was out of reach for the cultivators of this world. Wang Sheng had said so much, asked so many questions, and even searched her body for a while. But in the end, Mei only heard this sentence, which made Mei quite surprised. However, Wang Sheng seemed to have never said any nonsense in a serious situation. Mei also sensed that there might be something important, so she simply sat up, leaned on the pillow, and quietly waited for Wang Sheng to tell the story. This time, Wang Sheng grabbed Mei Er's little hand, which could be considered as giving Mei the strongest backing. Then, he told her the secret about the royal family that he had heard from old Taoist Ling Su. When she heard that the emperor had been forced to kill his favorite concubine, and even the princess was killed, she nervously grabbed Wang Sheng's hand, and her mood could not calm down for a long time. So Uncle Su was so pitiful in the past. That princess actually did not die. Wang Sheng looked at Mei and tried to speak in a calm tone. I have found the eunuch who was responsible for this matter. He said that the real princess had a secret mark on her body. Chapter 862. Not dead? That's great. When Mei heard that the princess didn't die, she immediately became happy. She was abandoned and adopted. When she heard that the princess had the same fate, she naturally sympathized with her. Mei, Wang Sheng called out. Mei raised her head and looked at Wang Sheng. Wang Sheng pointed at the place where he saw the mole again and said to Mei seriously, the secret mark on the princess is a mole at the base of her leg. Hearing Wang Sheng's words, Mei was stunned. Of course, she knew where the mole was on her body, but the sudden news made her unable to calm down at all. Now, Mei finally understood why Wang Sheng talked and made some ambiguous gestures. It turned out that he wanted to see if she had the mole on her body. In other words, her real identity should be the princess that the emperor lost when he was thrown out of the palace. She was the emperor's daughter, Uncle Su's daughter, the princess of the dynasty. She was originally just an adopted daughter, but she suddenly became the most honorable woman in the world. This change was so big that Mei couldn't react for a while. Really? Wang Sheng definitely wouldn't lie to her, and the mole on her body was real. More importantly, her natural charming physique wasn't fake. Connecting all these together, Mei couldn't find a reason to deny it. She was a princess. Mei had once fantasized about what her birth parents would be like. Perhaps they were from a small family that couldn't afford to raise her, or perhaps they were a young lady from a rich family who had fled for their lives. However, she had never imagined that she would actually be a princess. Emperor, Uncle Su, does he know? Mei felt that it wasn't right when she said emperor, so she changed it to Uncle Su, but it was still a bit awkward. He definitely felt it, but he wasn't completely sure. Wang Sheng replied, otherwise, the empress wouldn't be so intimate with you. By the way, has the Empress seen this mole of yours? No. Mayor shook her head and said, we did have a few beauty treatments together, but your Highness has never seen them. It's okay. Wang Sheng gently said to Mayer, I'm telling you all this because I don't want you to have any regrets in your heart. You also have parents, and they lost you when they were helpless. You can hate them, but you can also forgive them. It's all up to you. Mayer listened quietly without saying a word. If you want to be a princess, you can recognize them anytime, anywhere. Wang Sheng held Mayer's hand and comforted her again. It's fine if you don't want to be a princess for now. You only need to remember that here, in our family, you will always be the most favored princess. That will be enough. Woo, mixed with Mayer's sobs, Mayer threw herself into Wang Sheng's arms and hugged Wang Sheng's neck tightly, not letting go. Feeling the strength of Wang Sheng's muscles, Mayer's eyes flowed like a stream of tears. Those were tears of surprise, happiness, and nothing else. Wang Sheng's words gave Mayer the greatest happiness. Mayer even felt that even if she died now, she wouldn't have any regrets. After that, Mayer basically stayed in Wang Sheng's arms and didn't want to get up. Even if she didn't do anything, just lying in Wang Sheng's arms was incomparable happiness. Mayer began to tell Wang Sheng about her childhood, the story of when she was in charge of Baoqing Yutang, the story of running the Runzi workshop, and some trivial things that Mayer remembered clearly were told to Wang Sheng bit by bit. She was very happy when she was talking, and from time to time she would open her mouth to let Wang Sheng reach out and feed her a delicious dish. She was very happy. After talking a lot, Wang Sheng responded and sometimes interrupted to ask questions. The atmosphere was very peaceful. Basically, the two of them didn't sleep much and spent the whole night chatting. Wang Sheng knew that Mayer's mood must be very excited, so he accompanied her and let her know that he was by her side. You said that the method to upgrade the spirit. What is it? Seeing that it was already dawn outside, Mayer finally remembered what Wang Sheng wanted to tell her and asked curiously. Confidence. Wang Sheng seriously replied to Mayer, the current system of upgrading the spirit only occupies the most common sense. In fact, most of the time, it is wrong. Wrong? Mayer raised her head from Wang Sheng's arms. She couldn't believe what she had just heard. The current system of upgrading the spirit was wrong. Most people think that the highest limit of the spirit is the 9th level, which is the legendary realm. Wang Sheng lowered his head and said to Mayer, however, in the core of the place of Thousand Despair, I have found a monster beast that surpassed the 9th level. This is an example. Moreover, there's more. Mayer asked in disbelief. She knew about the existence of a monster beast, but this was not enough to completely dispel her understanding of the peak of the 9th level. When the second prince was plotting a rebellion, there was an old consecrator who fought 1 against 3 and was evenly matched with the current 3 great consecrators of the royal family. Wang Sheng knew that it was impossible to convince Mayer just by relying on the monster beast, so he used a human as an example. That old elder had already surpassed the 9th level. However, he had just entered the 9th level, so in the end, he was still killed by me. Mayer definitely didn't know about these secrets, but after hearing Wang Sheng's words, she didn't doubt the truth at all. However, she started to feel a lingering fear that Wang Sheng had actually faced such a terrifying expert. There is an armory in a worry-free city that give a red card assassin a chance to exchange 1,000,000 gold coins for a super cultivation technique. Wang Sheng continued. The one in charge of guarding the armory is a terrifying expert called Uncle Li. He has been living under the worry-free city for over 10 years, and I'm afraid he has already entered the 10th level. This time, Mayer directly covered her little mouth. How could a human expert be so terrifying? Of course, you don't have to care about all these. Wang Sheng listened carefully to the surroundings. There were no outsiders within 10 feet of them. Wang Sheng lowered his voice and whispered into Mayer's ear, Old Taoist Ling Su, my senior brother, is an expert of the 12th level. Mayer's hand could no longer cover her mouth. She stared at Wang Sheng, dumbfounded, until she saw Wang Sheng nodding his head. Then she turned to look at Wang Sheng in shock. So, The ninth level is never the limit. Wang Sheng saw that Mei had accepted all these, then continued. It's the same for the spirit. The star level is not the limit. Every spirit can actually be upgraded. It depends on your confidence and what will happen after the upgrade. Then what will my phantom fox become after the upgrade? Mei asked cooperatively. Nine-tailed celestial fox. Wang Sheng answered without hesitation. Chapter 863. The most famous one among the nine-tailed celestial foxes was, of course, Goddess Daji of the investiture of the gods. She could be regarded as the lord who charmed the world. So what Wang Sheng told her was naturally her story. It was very easy to upgrade the origin spirit. One just had to transform the phantom fox into a celestial fox, and then grow an extra tail to upgrade it. In this way, including the transformation of the celestial fox, there would be 14 realms. Mei was dumbfounded. 14 realms? What kind of concept was that? It was a whole 5 realms higher than the current legendary peak. Didn't that mean that the current legendary masters could not even compare to one of Mei-er's fingers in the future? Trust me, Wang Sheng did not say anything more to Mei-er, but just gave her the most reassuring reason. For Mei-er, was there any other reason that could make her trust him more than this? They did not sleep for the whole night. By the time they finished talking, the sky was already bright. Wang Sheng simply ate breakfast with Mei-er, and then hugged Mei-er to sleep for a while. In any case, Mei-er already knew everything about her parents, and also the secret of upgrading the origin spirit. She would have to rely on herself in the future. Even if Wang Sheng was by her side, these things, Wang Sheng could not help her. It could only depend on how much trust she had in Wang Sheng. The news that the Royal Symphony Orchestra would perform again in 5 days had been released. Along with this news, another thing was that the cost of the performance had directly increased by 10 times. The original ordinary hall seats cost 10 gold coins, but now it had become 100 gold coins. Countless people cursed out when they heard this news. Had Wang Sheng gone crazy thinking about money? With such a price increase, who would come to the concert in the future? But Wang Sheng did not care about this. If you wanted to see it, if you wanted to listen, if you wanted to come, if you wanted to come, if you wanted to come. If there was really no one, Wang Sheng could arrange for his own people to enjoy it. The royal family, as always, asked for 100 seats in addition to those who really liked music. After all, 100 gold coins for a concert was too extravagant. In the Duke's mansion, Wang Sheng would attend a concert with Mei, Rosa, and a few other old Taoist members of the Qing generation. The performance of the orchestra had also improved by leaps and bounds over the past few days. Every performance brought Wang Sheng and the others a different cultivation experience. Of course, Wang Sheng would give them detailed pointers every day. Anyone who listened to Wang Sheng's pointers would benefit greatly from any problems they had with the music, the spirit qi, or their coordination. Even Master Yu felt that his cultivation seemed to have become much smoother in the past few days. The old Taoist members of the Qing generation had a unique feeling. In the words of the old Taoist, when listening to music, the few old Taoist members who were all from Taoism and cultivated the same martial arts could vaguely cultivate along with the rhythm of the music. They could even secretly sense the thoughts of their companions. In other words, when the same sect cultivated the same martial arts, and everyone's cultivation was about the same, they could share their cultivation experience and improve together under the atmosphere of the music with the vibration of spiritual qi. This was an amazing discovery. Even the most powerful experts would have some things they could not figure out during the process of cultivation. If they could reach the point of sharing their cultivation experience directly in such an atmosphere, then the efficiency would be greatly improved when cultivating with the same sect. Especially when it was time for a breakthrough, the effect of dozens or hundreds of people cultivating at the same time would definitely be 100 times better than one person being stubborn. Moreover, they could resist the inner demons together. It was no wonder that the old Taoist members of the Qing generation were so obsessed with music. Unfortunately, Wang Sheng was cultivating the Taoist scripture's mind of guarding tranquility. It was not a simple Taoist scripture, so he could not resonate with the old Taoist members in terms of cultivation. This discovery made Wang Sheng look forward to the situation when all the great masters played together. The cultivation realms of the members of this orchestra were uneven. Although they could barely maintain the same level of music under the direction of the master, there were high and low levels of spiritual energy output. The formation of spiritual energy oscillations was also helpful for cultivation. But after all, there was still a trace of imbalance. Not only did the people listening to the music feel that it could improve their cultivation, but the people performing could also feel it. Within the range of the spiritual chi vibration, everyone felt the same effect. This made the musicians even more enthusiastic. This world was the world of the original soul. No matter what they did, as long as their cultivation was strong enough, they would be respected. Musicians were also human beings. How could they not care about these things? The terrible consequences of raising the ticket price by 10 times were now beginning to show. Even though the tickets were sold 5 days in advance, only a few tickets were sold. In addition to the 100 tickets reserved by the royal family, only about 200 tickets were sold in total. There were still more than 600 tickets left. Seeing this situation, Wang Sheng waved his hand, and the Duke's mansion took care of the remaining tickets. The ladies of the Duke's mansion went to the concert again. Of course, good things should be done to their own people. Of course, Wang Sheng had to attend. Some people from the Duke's mansion were also able to attend. Wang Sheng had been feeling the spiritual chi vibration in the small theater in the Duke's mansion. He needed to feel it in the Royal Grand Theater to see what kind of atmosphere it was and how the effect was. Hearing that Wang Sheng was going, the emperor sent a message that the emperor and the empress would also be going. In that case, it would be better to have a private room. Old Taoist Ling Su was still in seclusion. Wang Sheng paid attention to him every day. With old Taoist Ling Su's strength, it should not be a problem for him to be in seclusion for a month. However, it was best not to exceed a month. Otherwise, his body would not be able to take it. Last time, the old Taoist suffered because of this. Therefore, Wang Sheng had to monitor the old Taoist state every day. Once the time was exceeded, he would definitely wake him up. These days, Mei had been accompanying Wang Sheng in the Duke's mansion. Wang Sheng knew that she was also in a dilemma. She did not know how to face the emperor and the empress. Wang Sheng was also very patient. While cultivating, he accompanied Mei to do some happy things. Finally, the day of the concert arrived. Mei seemed to have thought it through. She dressed up carefully and accompanied Wang Sheng to the Royal Grand Theater. "Have you thought it through?" Wang Sheng asked curiously. "Yes." Mei looked very happy. She was no longer troubled. She smiled and replied, "No matter what I think, some things will not change. And I did not do anything wrong. It seems that there is no need to embarrass myself because of this." Indeed, Wang Sheng put his arm around Mei-er's slender waist and said with a smile, "You did not do anything wrong. You don't have to feel embarrassed. You have me. No matter what choice you make, you have me." Chapter 864. That being said, when Mei saw the emperor and the empress coming in from the box, she still felt a sense of unfamiliarity. This kind and amiable man was no longer the Uncle Su who had done business with her before, but her own father. This kind of feeling was indeed very refreshing. However, the empress was still as close as ever. She grabbed Mei-er's hand and chatted with her. She complained that Mei had not gone to the dream house for the past few days, causing her to practice alone with a personal trainer. In Wang Sheng's story, Mei-er's mother should have been killed by the original empress. The current empress was the emperor's concubine and was later promoted to empress. This kind of relationship made it easier for Mei to accept. After all, she wasn't her biological mother, so there was no need to have that kind of special feelings. The emperor had arrived, and the 3 great consecrators must have arrived. Seeing that Wang Sheng only brought Mei and Rosa, and old Taoist Ling Su didn't follow, the 3 great consecrators were stunned. "Where's ancestor Ling Su?" The emperor also felt strange and asked as soon as he entered the door. He was listening to the song in the mansion and realized something, so he went into seclusion. Wang Sheng didn't hide it. He didn't say in detail, but it could be considered as explaining the reason. Why did you come to the concert in person today? The emperor was curious about the reason why Wang Sheng came in person. Didn't the duke's mansion just build a small theater? Why did he come to the grand theater to listen? There was another reason. Why did the ticket price increase by 10 times? You'll know after listening. Wang Sheng kept them guessing and didn't answer directly. Instead, he made an inscrutable look. Anyway, it's a good thing. You'll know after listening. The seats downstairs were all for the women of the prince's mansion, and there were a lot of them. Fortunately, the three great consecrators knew that the strongest of these women was only in the 7th or 8th stage realm. They were no threat to them, so they didn't guard against them. However, they were also confused by Wang Sheng's words and didn't know what was going on. Tianzi was more willing to consider from Wang Sheng's point of view. Since Wang Sheng was willing to pay 10 times the ticket price to bring his own people to the concert, then there must be great benefits. Anyway, it was just a matter of waiting for a while, and there was no need to get to the bottom of it. As they chatted, the concert began on time. When the MC appeared, the audience, whether they were in the private rooms or in the ordinary seats, all quietened down. They had all attended the concert before, so they naturally knew the rules. Master, you brought the orchestra members to the stage, set up the instruments, and bowed to the audience. The audience applauded enthusiastically in response. When the first note rang out, the bodies of the three great consecrators sitting at the back of the box simultaneously trembled. It was clear that they had sensed the spiritual qi fluctuations in the theater caused by the music. Previously, they had experienced it carefully because Wang Sheng said that there would be spiritual qi fluctuations. However, with their cultivation, they could only sense a slight fluctuation and it wasn't very obvious. But now, this spiritual qi fluctuation was actually so clear. In the huge theater, countless spiritual qi was reflected by countless arrays and violently vibrated within the range of the theater. This kind of vibration wasn't harmful. On the contrary, the spiritual qi fluctuation actively drove the spiritual qi of everyone in the theater to circulate spontaneously, as if they were cultivating automatically. What was more amazing was that the spiritual qi in everyone's body was circulating according to the rhythm of the music. One moment it was fast, the next moment it was slow, the next moment it was light, and the next moment it was heavy. It was extremely tame, giving people a very pleasant feeling of cultivation. At this point, not to mention the three great consecrators with high cultivation, even Tianzi and the empress felt that something was wrong. This was because the spiritual qi in their body began to circulate unconsciously and cultivate automatically. Other than Sister Rosa, the ladies of the imperial residence didn't know that there would be such a change. However, since the Duke had specially asked them to come and enjoy the music, then it must have been the Duke's intentional arrangement. They just needed to feel it. The other people who were surprised were the royal family and the audience who really liked music and paid 10 times the price of the ticket. This was simply an unexpected surprise. They were caught off guard and were suddenly given such a big gift. It was hard for them to get used to it. When the spiritual qi in everyone's body began to surge along with the music, the aura of this spiritual qi fluctuation became stronger and stronger. It was as if a huge spiritual qi ball had formed in the entire theater. It continuously rotated and absorbed spiritual qi from the surroundings. Then, small balls of spiritual qi were fed back to everyone in the theater one by one. Whether it was the musicians or the audience, all of them had such a ball. Wang Sheng was also surprised. After all, a small theater was a small theater. There were few people in the orchestra, and there were also few audience members. There were also fewer arrays set up. Thus, the sound that it created could not be compared to a theater like the Royal Theater, which could hold thousands of people. The spiritual qi that flowed endlessly in the body circulated once with the rhythm of the music. Then it rushed out of the body and joined the huge ball of spiritual qi. The ball of spiritual qi circulated once and absorbed an unknown amount of spiritual qi. Then it returned to the body and became more abundant. Then it's circulated in the acupoints again. The whole process was clearly an unconscious process of both internal and external cultivation. Everyone was immersed in it. No one knew whether they were enjoying the nonstop music or enjoying the continuous flow of spiritual qi. In any case, there seemed to be musical notes flowing in the center of everyone's ears. The spiritual qi was also nourishing everyone at any time and place, growing and multiplying endlessly. In this state of collective cultivation, the music was played one after another. From time to time, people also experienced a completely different kind of cultivation as the music changed. This feeling was simply intoxicating. The music had stopped for a long time, but the ball of spiritual qi had not completely dissipated. It was still continuously replenishing everyone's spiritual qi. It became smaller and smaller, and finally, the ball of spiritual qi was completely consumed. Only then did everyone who was immersed in cultivation become spirited and wake up from that subconscious state. How does it feel to pay 10 times the price of the ticket? Wang Sheng looked at the emperor and the queen's faces in disbelief. He couldn't help but smile and asked the emperor, "Is it still worth it?" "Worth it," the emperor replied without hesitation. "When I go back, I will build a similar theater in the palace and listen to it every day. This is simply the sound of nature." The three great consecrators also looked at Wang Sheng in disbelief. They didn't expect Wang Sheng to give them such a huge surprise. Although a concert was not enough to make them break through, they found that not only did their cultivation improve, but their mentality was also a lot more open. This was simply a great blessing for their future cultivation. Those who bought tickets to listen to the concert were really blessed to be able to catch such an opportunity. He believed that in the future, not to mention 10 times the price of the ticket, even if it was 100 times the price of the ticket, they would still be willing to go to the concert. There were also people who didn't buy the ticket because it was too expensive. After tomorrow, those people who originally scoffed at it would cry and beg Wang Sheng to sell them the concert tickets at a higher price. Chapter 865. That night, the news spread out. The audience, who loved music and had paid 10 times the price of the ticket, spread the news excitedly. The royal family responded quickly. That night, they immediately asked the officials of the Ministry of Rites to find a suitable place to build a palace theater in the imperial city that was slightly smaller than the Royal Grand Theater. As soon as the news spread, the whole capital was excited. If the last time when the ladies of the Duke's mansion attended the concert, it was because of their beauty, then this time, people's attention was all on the concert itself. Listening to music could also promote cultivation. The spiritual energy in the entire Grand Theater caused a collective cultivation. Not only did they cultivate, but they also enjoyed a perfect concert during their cultivation. Among the 200 people who bought tickets, 7 of them advanced after returning that night. The remaining 30 to 40 people advanced by small realm, and the rest all advanced. It could be said that a concert that lasted at most 2 hours was equivalent to at least 2 months of cultivation. Those who originally planned to buy tickets, but later felt that it was expensive, were all beating their chests and stamping their feet. If they had known that this concert would be like this, let alone 100 gold coins, they would go even if it was 1,000 gold coins. 2 months of cultivation. Just the cost of food alone might not be less than 100 gold coins. Why was it that they were stupid? They were usually blindly generous, but when it was time to be generous, they were stingy. Early the next morning, countless invitations were sent to the Duke's mansion. They were all high-ranking officials and nobles in the capital who thought that they had some status and could talk to Wang Sheng. The contents of the invitations were messy. Some wanted to invite Wang Sheng over as a guest. Some wanted to make friends. Some wanted to send gifts. And some wanted to send beauties. But after these messy things were removed, there was only one core content left, and that was to find out when the next concert would be, and then ask the Duke for help and reserve a few tickets. As for the price of the tickets, no one mentioned it at all. Everyone had the attitude that if you just say the number, they would immediately send it to your door. These invitations were not sent to Wang Sheng at all. Wang Sheng directly let Steward Wang handle it. There were 2 questions that he was interested in now. One was that the effect of the grand theater was much better than the small theater. Was it because there were more audience and musicians? Was it because there were so many formations? The other reason was that the current members of the Royal Symphony Orchestra were not of the same standard. The powerful ones had an extremely powerful chief musician, while the mediocre ones had ordinary musicians who were barely qualified to perform on stage. Under such circumstances, the effect was still so good. If all the musicians were of the same standard, would the effect be even better? Of course, what Wang Sheng was looking forward to the most was the miraculous effect that would occur when the great grandmasters that Master Yu had invited arrived in Beijing. The first problem required a few formation experts to study together. The last question required Master Yu to answer. It was not something that Wang Sheng could answer at the moment. Half a day later, all the vassal states were also in an uproar. At the very least, the royal palaces of every vassal state were seething with excitement. Music has such a great effect. No one would believe the news that was sent over. But the people in the capital who were responsible for delivering the news were all reliable people from the various clans. It was impossible for them to send back false information. The monarchs of the various countries did not hesitate and immediately summoned their court musicians to perform. But it was obvious that there was no effect. They had heard this kind of performance countless times, and they had never felt any spiritual chi vibration. It would be the same even if they did it again. It would be the same even if they did it 10 times more. Just as the various countries were about to send letters to reprimand the people in the capital for making a fuss over nothing, a second messenger bird message was sent over. Duke Changsheng had spoken. Only the Royal Theatre and the Royal Symphony Orchestra could achieve such an effect. The Royal Theatre was built with the support of the royal family. It was built by a master architect and several members of the royal family for several months. Later on, a few formations were carefully set up to diffuse the sound effects. The Royal Symphony Orchestra was led by a master musician, Master Yu. Even the majority of the songs that they performed were carefully composed by Duke Changsheng. Wang Sheng was always able to come up with something that others couldn't. This was no longer a rare occurrence. Since this time it was related to Duke Changsheng, it was very likely that it was true. However, all parties were more cautious. In the case that their own people did not personally experience it and only relied on hearsay, they still expressed cautious belief. Under the ardent pleas of all parties, and with Wang Sheng consciously giving all parties a chance to verify the situation, the Royal Symphony Orchestra, which had rested for 5 days, once again performed in the Royal Theatre. This time, Wang Sheng did not go too far. He just increased the price of the ticket by 20 times, making it 200 gold coins per ticket. In less than 20 minutes, the price of 200 gold coins per ticket and 1,000 concert tickets were sold out. The people in the queue were stunned and could not believe what they had seen. Then, the crowd quickly became agitated. Countless people in the queue began to clamor, dissatisfied with such a result. The result of the clamor was that it directly attracted the imperial guards and a group of royal masters, who almost suppressed those noisy guys on the spot. Fortunately, the shopkeeper sent by Mayer saw that the situation was not good and quickly decided to add another performance the next day. After selling another 1,000 tickets, the whole thing was settled. For 2 consecutive days, 2,000 people were able to enjoy the grand occasion of 1,000-people cultivation with the Royal Symphony Orchestra. For 2 consecutive days, there were masters who broke through on the scene, triggering the spiritual energy of heaven and earth to temper their bodies. A part of the spiritual energy triggered by them was also added to the big spiritual energy, causing everyone present to benefit a lot. It was even more advantageous than the one between Wang Sheng and the emperor. After calculating, a total of 17 people broke through on the spot during the 2 days of performance, including an 8-stage master who advanced to the legendary realm. There were so many people at the scene, and under the watchful eyes of the public, everyone felt that this was absolutely not fake. New news once again spread to the major vassal states. This time, the vassal states had no choice but to believe it. Their people personally went to the scene and personally felt the atmosphere. It was absolutely not a rumor. Countless people began to inquire about the identity of the builder of the Royal Theatre, and even more people inquired about the identity of the members of the Royal Symphony Orchestra. All parties seemed to still have the same old thinking. Such a good thing, no matter what, must be in their hands and must not let it go easily. Chapter 866. It was easy for the forces of the major vassals to join forces to find out the whereabouts of a group of people, even if they were in the capital. Soon, the news of these people was sent to the desks of all parties. However, looking at these news, all parties were frowning. There was no other reason. These people were all in the Duke's residence, in Wang Sheng's residence. If they didn't want to directly clash with Wang Sheng, then they shouldn't have any ideas about these people. However, only the capital had a grand theater and the Royal Symphony Orchestra. In other words, only the capital could play those magical music. Other places couldn't. How could this be? Wasn't this the same as letting the imperial family dominate and leaving the other families behind? Which vassal could tolerate this? If they didn't put some pressure on the royal family to come forward and communicate with Wang Sheng, when would they wait? All parties made up their minds and were about to take action when the next news came immediately. The royal family spent money to build a Royal Academy of Arts in the capital and specially invited grandmasters in music, dance, and architecture to teach. Anyone who wanted to learn could sign up. As long as they could pass the assessment of these grandmasters and pay a certain tuition fee, they could enter the Royal Academy of Arts to study. As for the content of learning, the royal family also made it clear. The repertoire of the Royal Symphony Orchestra, musical instrument playing skills, and so on were all taught. At the same time, there was an advanced class. The advanced class would teach how to build a grand theater, how to set up a formation, how to form spiritual energy oscillation with the theater, and so on. It could be said that the advanced class of the Royal Academy of Arts would teach everything that the major forces were interested in. It sounded incredible. Such advanced skills could be learned as long as one paid gold coins. However, this was the content of the official document sent by the emperor to the vassal states through the Ministry of Rights. There was even the emperor's imperial treasure on it. It couldn't be fake. One could learn without paying any price. Why was this style so familiar? All parties immediately thought of Wang Sheng. Wang Sheng seemed to have such a style. It seemed like he didn't need to pay any price, but in fact, he wouldn't pay less. Wang Sheng actually had one characteristic. He was greedy for money. As long as he paid enough gold coins, he could learn anything he wanted. With the emperor's document and Wang Sheng's style, all parties immediately believed it. This was more like it. As for the requirement to pass the assessment of the Grand Master, that was not a condition at all. Without any foundation, how could the Royal Institute of Culture teach? Of course, only those with a certain level of foundation could learn it. The feudal vassals discussed with their ministers and suddenly realized that the originally complicated and difficult matter had become so simple. In the end, it was just a good discussion with Wang Sheng. Any conditions could be discussed. Since that was the case, what were they waiting for? Everyone immediately began to search for suitable candidates in their own territories. In the past, whether it was an architect or a musician, they were all inferior people who served the officials of the major feudal lords. Now, these people had suddenly become popular. If you wanted them to be loyal, you had to treat them honestly and politely. Then, you had to find a way to make them loyal. Otherwise, if they joined someone else after they finished their studies, wouldn't it be a waste of effort? Of course, other than looking for people, there was another important thing, and that was to prepare a large amount of gold coins. With Wang Sheng participating in such a powerful project, there was no need to think about being cheap. But for all parties, things that could be bought with gold coins were easier than getting a lot of people dead. It was worth it. The major feudal lords also speculated about the emperor's thoughts. After thinking about it, they found that it was not a threat to all parties. For the emperor, in addition to gaining some benefits and reputation, it seemed that he did not get much practical benefits. At most, he could only share some gold coins with Wang Sheng. From this point of view, it was completely possible to do this. The major feudal lords quickly took action. It was unknown how many musicians and architects in the world had become popular overnight. After knowing the whole story, they were grateful to Wang Sheng and the Royal Institute of Culture. The sudden promotion of music made many ordinary people confused. When the music grandmasters who had been living in seclusion in the territories of various countries sent people to invite them, they suddenly found that they were a step late. Those grandmasters had already received Master Yu's invitation and got up to rush to the capital. The one who received the letter the latest had already gotten up for almost 5 days. When the representatives of various countries returned resentfully, Wang Sheng had already received more than 10 grandmasters of various musical instruments at the Duke's mansion. Master Yu had invited about 20 people, and there were still more than 10 on the way. The dozen or so people who had arrived were all here for the sake of Master Yu. On the way, they had already heard all kinds of rumors about the Royal Symphony Orchestra. After arriving at the Duke's mansion, they found that not only the orchestra, but also many new musical instruments, including the piano, as well as many beautiful songs that they had never heard before. There was also the music score, which was a killer weapon that musicians could not stop. Without waiting for Wang Sheng's invitation, they had already taken the initiative to stay and did not plan to leave for a while. The new grandmasters did not immediately join the ranks of the orchestra. Instead, they first enjoyed a complete concert in the small theater of the Duke's mansion. The beautiful music, the moving melody, and the ubiquitous spiritual qi directly convinced these grandmasters. After listening to Master Yu's invitation, these grandmasters agreed to join the Royal Symphony Orchestra without hesitation. At the same time, they also indirectly agreed to teach at the Royal Academy of Arts. For these grandmasters, with like-minded music grandmasters like Master Yu playing music with them, they could also train the younger generation so that there would be successors. It would also greatly improve the status of musicians, and there would also be a lot of benefits. Why not? Almost every grandmaster who rushed over followed the same process. First, they listened to the concert in the small theater. Then they experienced the charm of the piano and other new musical instruments. Finally, they agreed to stay and immediately learned the music score. Even though they were already old, when it came to learning the music score, they were definitely not slower than those youngsters. As more and more grandmasters arrived, Wang Sheng began to look forward to it more and more. Wang Sheng was looking forward to the time when these grandmasters were done with their training and quickly adapted to the symphony orchestra's music scores and conducting methods. When they could all participate, Wang Sheng would be able to experience the stimulating effect of having an orchestra that had an average standard of a grandmaster. Just thinking about that feeling made him look forward to it. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.